Okay, good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Fraser City Council virtual meeting for Thursday, May 13th, 2021 at 6:35 p.m. Could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
The flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty,
justice.
justice.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Thompson, do you mind calling roll call, please? And council members, please identify your location and state, please.
Member Baranski,
Present, Fraser, Michigan.
Member Blanky,
Present, Fraser, Michigan.
Mayor Carnegie,
Present, Fraser City Hall.
Member Kauka,
Here, Fraser, Michigan.
Member Lesich,
Michigan, pure Michigan, and specifically Plainfield Township, Michigan.
Member Shornack,
Fraser, Michigan City Hall.
Member Winowicki.
Present, Fraser, Michigan.
Okay, item 4, approval of the agenda. We have 2 items that we need to add to the agenda tonight for under closed sessions. Item A is to consult with the legal counsel regarding trial and settlement strategy in connection with Macomb County Circuit Case 203248-CD. And item B, consideration of a written opinion for the city attorney. Mr. Denault, would you like those to do individually, or you 2 at the same time is okay?
I believe, Mr. Carney, we should do them separately. I know it's a bit of a hassle, but
Okay.
they're such distinct items, they'd best be handled separately as item A and item B.
Okay, I will do that. I'll make a motion to add item A with connection to case 203248-C, item A.
Second.
You have any comments and questions on that motion?
Those are already on the agenda. Do we have to formally add them?
I was looking at my old agenda.
Yeah.
They are on the new agenda. They were published for the public.
Okay,
They
all
are.
right. Okay. So we'll just leave them at that.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Any comments and questions on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Please,
We do
Mr. Thompson, call a vote. I got excited. There's no mask mandate now, so it's like, okay, we're back to a little bit of normalcy. Sorry.
I know I almost came in.
Yeah,
My
okay.
husband was telling me to come in.
You should have. It would have been more fun.
Go ahead, Mark.
Excuse me, Member Baranski,
Yes.
Member Blanky,
Yes.
Mayor Carnegie,
Yes.
Member Kauka,
Yes.
Member Lesich,
Yes.
Member Shornack,
Yes.
Member Winowicki.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Item 5, citizen participation on agenda items. If there's anybody in the waiting room at this time that will not be around later in the meeting, would like to mention anything, please make yourself known. I don't see any, Eric, do you? Okay, I see none. We'll bring it back to the chair. Item 6, consent agenda. Mayor Pro Tem Winowicki.
Having heard no call outs while we were approving the agenda, I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions on that motion? I see none. Mr. Thompson, could you please call a vote?
Member Baranski,
Yes.
Member Blanky,
Yes.
Mayor Carnegie,
Yes.
Member Kauka,
Yes.
Member Lesich,
Yes.
Member Shornack,
Yes.
Member Winowicki.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Item 7, public hearings. Tonight, we have 2 public hearings, one related to Public Act 33, Public Safety Assessment, And item B, the property tax millage. At this time, it is 6:40. I will open the public meeting for item A, Public Act 33, the Public Safety Special Assessment. If anyone in the audience would like to comment or discuss. Sergeant, I don't see anybody. Do you? Okay, I'll bring it back to the chair and I will close the meeting at 6:42 p.m. Thank you. Item 7B, at this time at 6:43, I will open up the public hearing for property tax millage rate at this time. If there's anybody in the audience who would like to comment or discuss or ask any questions, please make yourself known at this time. Sergeant, I have nobody on my screen. Okay. We show none. So at this time, I'll bring it back to the chair and we'll close the meeting at 6:44 p.m.
The hearing, you mean?
Hearing, I'm sorry.
Not the meeting.
Seconded.
Thank you, Susan. Such a nice day, too. Okay, item 8, discussion of fiscal year 2021-22 budget. At this time, I believe, Vincent, you would like to have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, everyone. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. Okay, so talking about the budget tonight, it's a continuation of our discussion from last month's meeting, April 15th, where we covered the budget and answered questions and went back after that meeting and made a few revisions to the budget. And our hope tonight was to seek approval on the part of council for the final budget. I believe the code is having it approved before the third Monday of the month. So hopefully we could satisfy it here tonight. What I wanted to do is cover the revisions. We walked through the budget. I am happy to take any questions that any of you may have. I did want to start off with the revisions that we did make sure that you're aware of those, and then even take questions surrounding that. So I had sent out a budget summary, I think it was a day or two ago, yesterday, I believe it was, and highlighted some of the revisions that we made. So I just want to start there, walk through that. So I'm going to walk down the budget. I'm going to start in the revenue section. Starting out, one of the revisions made were, we had discussed the last time, the administrative services chargebacks. And what those were charging special funds. In particular, it was the ambulance fund, rubbish, water, and sewer. Charging those funds for services provided by other departments to them. And Mr. Walters at the time had walked through that the last meeting and explained that. And what we got from the majority of council was that the costs were too high. I believe in ambulance, the cost was over $500,000, and water, I believe it was the same, right around $572,000. So in your budget packet, we had included a revised admin services chargeback spreadsheet, the same one but basically showing you the reduction of allocation. So what we did is went back and took in some of these departments, and this was a first year um, allocation. So keep that in mind. This had never been done before. So in going back and looking at it and refining it, we took wages and benefits as opposed to the entire department. So before, with some of these categories, let's say public safety, DPW, the entire department was taken. So you may notice that the category or column that says fiscal expenses, you may notice that in certain categories or columns, the numbers are brought down a little bit, and that's why. We also brought down the allocations. So the percentage of time that we're saying these departments are spending servicing those other departments. And in a nutshell, with this particular spreadsheet, the numbers came way down. And you can match the numbers in this sheet to the budget on page 2 of your packet. We did color code the particular departments on page 2. So if you take a look at that, you can see where we brought that revenue down from before. So ambulance was, say, for example, $502,711. That was brought down to $116,347. And that's one example. All of them came down. We felt that those were really reasonable. So if you take a look at page 2 of your budget packet, you can see the color coding. It matches that little spreadsheet that I referenced. And if you compare that to the prior period's number, so let's take, for example, just to walk through, we'll start with ambulance. That's the kind of the pink highlight. You'll see that 116,347. So we brought that down from the 502,711, 500,000. If you look at the prior period's number, they're a lot closer, obviously. So we're not hitting those funds as heavy as we did before. We brought them way down. Now, what that did was to reduce revenue, obviously, in the general fund. So it brought the revenue down. And there was one other area I want to mention before I get to the bottom line revenue number. The other area of revision was the local community stabilization share account. And that was General Ledger 101 573, and that's on page 1. That particular account, and it's if you're looking for that, it's going to be right near the middle. It's 101,00573. So it'll be towards the bottom. It's 3/4 of the way down. You'll see local community stabilization share. And you'll notice that that number was brought down. Prior, it was 1.2 million. So it matched 2019-20's activity, which is in your far left column. The reason that number was brought down to the 698,960 was because of the uncertainty surrounding a second payment. For this current fiscal period, the payments are usually made in October, I believe it is, and then right around April or May, I believe. So this period, my understanding is the state discovered that they had more money available than they previously thought, and so they made a second payment this year. But that's not something that we can say, hey, we can expect that every year. And so when we considered that, we basically considered, hey, this is only we're gonna consider this to be one payment. We know we'll get that one payment in October, not sure about the second. And that's why we brought that down. So we're more conservative than we are liberal. Those are the two major revisions, the chargebacks, which you can see there on page 2, and this particular fund that we brought down. Obviously, that was several $100,000 from the 1.2, really about 500,000 or so. The two revisions taken together brings you then to $15.9 million, as you can see on page 2 of the revenue, the bottom line gross revenue for general funds. So bringing that down, if you then jump to page 13, which shows your your net appropriations there in the general fund, you're looking at a net appropriations of $2.8 million. So prior our meeting a month ago, it was 1.5, 1.3, somewhere around there. So in essence, again, the general fund, making those revisions, which we thought were reasonable, that fund actually reduced in revenue, which caused a higher net appropriation in it. And that's what that number is. That's where you can see that the prior period, that number was a positive 2.9 million. If you look at 2019-20 activity, year to date, January 31, that figure is 2.2 million, as you can see in that column. But next year, we're expecting that number to be 2.8 million the other way, or a net appropriation. So as far as any questions surrounding the revenue portion or those revisions made, were there any questions out there on that? Mr. Lessig.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Thank you for revisiting the admin section. That was the one that I had asked about. And my understanding and experience is that has to be reasonable to the services provided by the other fund or organization, part of the organization. So I appreciate those are kept in check. What that does is it keeps that money in those special funds so they can be used for the purposes intended when those funds were created. So like if water and sewer, there was a significant increase in the first draft, and that would have taken away from being able to put that money away towards our capital budgeting needs for water and sewer. So I'm always about fixing our water and sewer system, and I appreciate keeping the money in that account. As far as the LCSA, the Local Community Stabilization Act, I appreciate that you revisited that too, because the May payment has been, over the past 5 years, been erratic. It's gone from 367,000 in 2017 to nearly 850,000 in 2019, and then we don't know what it's going to be this year. So that's something we have not budgeted before, and I appreciate that we are remaining fiscally conservative on that. Don't count that money until it gets here. I guess that's the lesson learned in the LCSA money. And to date, we have received approximately $1.8 million in overpayments from the Local Community Stabilization Act, and we haven't really spent any of that money in a significant or specific fashion. So those are changes I like to see. As far as the park budget, I had emailed you about the park budget. It was in draft 2 at $250,000. I believe we appropriated 416 or something like that for the park improvements. Would the new budget include those changes, or the final budget, I should say?
That particular question was answered in that budget summary, but I am happy, Mr. Lessig, to revisit that. And that would have been, I'm looking for that particular area. It would have been the second page of that budget summary under parks maintenance, where we budgeted, and let me, for all of council, let me just direct them to that particular page. Give me a second and I'll find that. That's page 20 and 21 of your budget. That's what Mr. Lessig is referring to. So this is under the capital projects fund, or the capital improvements. So it starts at the bottom of 20. And if you flip that page to 21, you will see third row down, capital outlay parks maintenance. Improvements, those were money set aside. It's $250,000, 250 there. Mr. Lessig was inquiring about the the outlay that council recently approved, and it was actually in the amount of $386,027.94 to be exact. So I think it started out, we were talking 400,000, but council actually approved the 386. And the answer to that is this money does not include that outlay because when council had discussed the purchase order and the timing of everything, where Mr. Ragsdale had explained that the cost would be going up if we didn't take advantage of the prices before April 30th or May 1st. And so we signed that purchase order. So the money's there for that 386 is obligated for this fiscal period. So so therefore, you wouldn't put it on the next year's budget. It's actually
Okay.
money that's encumbered for this year.
Okay, but we haven't okay, that's fine. That explains it. So is the $250,000 for additional park maintenance?
Absolutely. The $250,000 for reason that you're probably going to want to do in accordance with the 5-year plan and other things that wanted to set some money aside for additional park improvements that council may deem necessary, they may want to do throughout the fiscal period. It's a 1-year look ahead. So who knows when that'll be, but we certainly didn't want to have, no money set aside for that, for other parks or other things you may want to do.
Okay, thank you. I got one more question, and that, can you share your, do you have the slide on the 5-year projection?
The
all.
5-year projection for the,
So taking our proposed budget and drawing a 5-year picture of where we are in each of the two, current year and years 2 through 5. You had prepared something, and I wanted to talk about that.
oh, that was the, that wasn't the budget itself. You mean the 5-year projection?
Yes.
That went in accord with the PA 33. So that wasn't it had the budgeted numbers in it, but it was referencing PA 33 and what might happen in 5 years. I could certainly pull that up.
Yeah, I would like you to pull that up because
Sure.
I have a couple of specific questions.
Okay, let me, can we project that? Give me a quick second.
Councilman Lussich, can you tell us where that is in our packet?
You received that in an email yesterday, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Thank you.
That's why I wanted to share with everybody so we can all look
Are
at
we
the same
good?
time.
okay. All right. Pardon me? We're good? Okay.
And I'll start out by saying I understand the 5-year projection at best is an educated guess. And in year 5, our budget will look nothing like we think it will today. So 5 years ago, we didn't plan on a pandemic, and here we are managing our government during those times.
Yeah, I thought that, and it looks like it's coming up now, but my thoughts were, if you reference, before I even get into that 5-year projection, if you reference, go back to page 2 of the budget and simply look at again, I'm sorry, not page 2, but page 13 of your budget packet. If you look at again, where we expect to end up in terms of the fund balance of the general ledger fund, just look at that fund only, which is what this 5-year projection looked at.
Right.
We're saying you're going to be around 6.5 million rounded. And if you look at 2019-20's activity, which is the far left column of page 13, the fund balance, the ending fund balance there was 9.7 million. So since 1920 to what we expect in 21-22, you lost around over $3 million in that ending fund balance. So you can see that balance, I guess, diminishing. And so that 5-year projection it's a simple projection. And actually it was ultra conservative. It was overly conservative because, and it looks like, did I lose that? There we go. There it is.
We're
Um,
not seeing it if you're
oh, you-
sharing it.
Am I sharing that? Oh, okay. All right. There we go. Ah, okay. There we go. Thanks.
Still not
We
seeing
want
it.
that one.
There we
There
go.
we go. Okay. Sorry about that. So starting with, the comments made on page 13 and then extending to this particular projection, what we looked at was 5-year projection at the 4.5 mils, which is what the city was levying for PA 33. So that top portion of that projection looks at, okay, let's assume council votes to maintain PA 33 in place. And the bottom portion of that, which I'll slide down here, is the 5-year projection. If council voted to abolish PA 33, or assuming it goes away as of this budget period and then future budget periods. So that's what this is showing. Keeping in mind, page 13 of that budget, you can see that account diminishing already, the general fund. So this looked at just the general fund. So if we go back to where my cursor is, 2021-22 revenues were, and this is consistent with the budget, 15.9 million, which you saw on page 13 or page 2. Expenditures are 18.679 million, which that didn't change from Mr. Walters' presentation from a month ago. But the net decrease, it did change. So before, I believe we were around, I believe it was 17.5 or so million when Mr. Walters presented, but with the administrative services revisions and that community stabilization share account that we discussed, that's what brought that down. So that's consistent with what you saw on page 13. The impact to the total fund balance was a 6,586,000, which you saw that on page 13. And so then then you're projecting forward. Now I say it's overly conservative because we assumed, and you can see that in the footnote at the bottom, and I'll pull your attention to that as I go down a little bit. Footnote assumes a 3% annual increase in both revenue and expenditures with all other factors held constant. So we're holding the other factors constant. We're just saying revenues and expenditures will both increase simultaneously 3% per annum. And I say that's overly conservative because revenues are not really increasing at 3%. If you factor in, the Headley Amendment, in terms of, the majority of our revenue is going to be property taxes. I believe it's around 65-70% of our revenue. When we factor in the Headley Amendment and the impact that it's had, on the city, over the years, you can only increase at the lesser of 5% or the rate of inflation. The rate of inflation's been under 2% most of these years since the Great Recession. Rates have been really low, inflation's been really low. And so that means that, millage rates are going to increase a lot slower. And so you're really not getting a 3% equal increase with expenditures that in the real world, but I made it really conservative. So and by the way, expenditures are increasing higher than 3% a year, because if you look at page 13 of that budget, let's take a quick look at that again. The expenditures actually increased If you look at the appropriations, 13% year over year. So we're expecting a 13% increase on the in the area of appropriations just for the general fund. But for a simple projection's sake, this is a simple projection. We said 3% a year. What happens? What if? And so that first year, it's consistent with the budget. The second year, revenues increased 3% or to 16.4, and expenditures increased 3% to 19.2, and the net decrease is 2.9 million. So it's pretty close to the prior period, which is 2.8 million decrease. Appropriations are over or exceeding revenue. But what happens is for every year that you've got a net appropriation or net decrease, in other words, those numbers are red and they're $2 million or $3 million. What's happening is that's eating away at your general fund balance. So each year it's eating away at that. So essentially what you're doing is taking that 2 million and you're netting it against your unassigned fund balance, where my cursor is, page 4 or row 14, that's 6.47. And then that's giving you the 3.5 million here where the cursor is. So then we do the same thing in the third year and 3% each way. There's a net decrease of 2.96 million. That's netted against that 3.5 million if you're following me. And you're pretty close to break even in that third year at 427,000. The fifth year is where you go negative, where it's a negative 2.7 million in the general fund, because you're netting that 3 million there against that 427. And so that's why I highlighted that to bring to your attention. That's where that general fund goes negative. And then in 25, 26, you net it again. So it's just getting worse at that point. So then it goes from 2.7 to 6 million. Now that's with PA 33 in place. If you go down to.
Could I ask a question about those numbers?
Sure.
Real quick. All right. And this is why I want to bring this up. In 2021-22, we are projecting approximately $1.3 million in capital improvements. Is that correct?
Approximately 1.383, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, capital improvements that we're allocating to that fund. Yeah, I believe it's Fund 402.
There's actually almost a 3 million transfer out for
capital. Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. Thank you, John.
That's what I was going to say is,
Can I say it?
Keep in mind that this assumes a $3 million transfer every year. So if you take that out, you're pretty much break even every year.
I would like to walk through that a little bit to explain that to the public. In 2021-22, we know that we're doing a significant capital improvement project, and it is actually the largest capital improvements we've done in quite a while that weren't roads and water and sewer. So we were spending $1.3 million in fixing up our city, and 1.7 million of that, an additional 1.7 million would be transferred to this capital projects fund. At the end of 2022, June 30th of next year, we would have approximately $1.7 million in that fund. Would that be correct, John? Is that where you were going?
Correct.
Okay, so this budget assumes that each year from 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2025, we will take an additional $3 million, yet our capital projects will still be in that $1.25 million range. The net effect of that is that we take $15 million out of general fund and put that into the capital projects budget, but only spend $6 million of that. And so that's why we go negative very quickly. What caught my eye was that every year we're losing $3 million and we're still levying 4.5 mils of PA 33. So the bottom line is what we do is we take this under this model, which I don't think we'd ever actually enact in the out years. We are draining our general fund and putting that into a specialized capital project fund. Doing some capital improvements, but just banking money away for approximately $9 million in capital improvements by year 2025. So I think that is it's mischaracterizing with what reality would be in out years when we're faced with $3 million deficits every year. I think we do something different.
Yeah,
I see, your point there. One thing to bear in mind though on that is even if we reversed or assume that we're not taking, moving 1.7 million out of there each year, once again, this was a very, very conservative projection. You know, again, your expenditures are a lot higher than 3%, and your revenue is not 3%. They're not equal today. So even if we reverse that and said, okay, I can go back and assume that, and I'm happy to redo that again, you know, and say, hey, let's not assume that we're taking, you know, 1.7 million out every year and doing that. This fund would still, it would still be diminished and it would go negative.
What year would it go negative? I guess
Well, what
that's
I
the
would
question.
I would have to go back and assume that we're not going to move the 1.7 million every year. But at that point, I could even argue that I could bring revenue down because revenue is not increasing at 3% a year. It's increasing probably closer to 1 or 2% a year. And expenditures are certainly increasing higher than 3% a year. So I would go back and fine tune that. It's a simple projection. But I can fine tune it and I can show you when you would go negative in that projection. I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, I did a little back of the napkin math myself. And if we only, let's say that we as a council decided that $1.5 million of improvements, be that putting money towards special road projects or things like that. If we did that over the next 5 years, we would gradually bring that fund balance down. We know that our fund balance is about 58% right now at the end of this year. If we did, and we just funded capital improvements and had a small negative net revenue versus expenditures, we would bring that down about 8% a year. And so by 2025, if we did nothing besides fund PA 33 at the current rate, did some capital improvements, we'd be around 17%, which is where we were in 2015. So I did that. I would like to see yours. And if I had a wish, I would say remove the excess transfers and just fund the capital forecast. That would help kind of clarify where we're going to be and when we would eventually go negative. I certainly agree with that. It's just a matter of timing, and because all of these decisions are information points.
Sure, absolutely.
Inform my vote on the millage that we pass. So
sure, and you know, it also as a projection or a forecast, a look ahead, you know, you can argue that council probably wouldn't make that transfer every year, but then, you know, I could argue, I have no idea what council will do, you know, and so holding it steady, I don't know. I mean, I can't really say that. That's up to council, right? But it was a simple projection. And like I said, I could go back and say, hey, let's assume council won't make a transfer. I mean, certainly the roads are in dire need of repair and certain capital projects and things. Who knows what council will do? But that was with the PA 33 simple projection at 3%. And then the one below was without it. And, you know, we were showing, you know, you go on negative, that general fund going negative even faster. I believe it was in the second year.
Yep. I got one more thing and I will stop talking for now. And that is the street bond 2015. We were taking a one-time kind of sweep. We've finished paying that bond and there is some additional funds left in there.
You mean the 165,000?
Correct. That
Right.
fund, that amount is included in the out years for your revenue projection.
That was transferred. Yeah, that was transferred back into the general fund.
Yeah, your 5-year projection includes the, assuming that 165 will happen every year. Just
right. And
that won't happen every year though.
Yeah, and that's probably, I think we can agree on material too, though. Yeah, 165, and you're talking about millions of dollars.
That's $800,000, $711,000. That's,
Yeah.
I consider that.
But yeah, I
material,
could,
but-
that could have been removed.
Yep, okay, and that's what I have right now. Thank you very much, and I'll let others
Sure,
speak. So
sure.
appreciate it.
Sure, you're welcome.
Oh, just to piggyback on Councilman Lessig, some of his notes or comments is, myself, I like that transfer because this council has some bold ideas in working these roads in the industrial complex and in Garfield Road and or water mains that need to be fixed. And so these things aren't cheap. Obviously, you know that. You're the water guru in the city, and it's going to take a lot of money. And it was really nice to hear, Councilwoman Suzanne Kalka and some others talk about the industrial complexes, and we've been talking about that. And this council finally put this city in a good enough position where, we're not going to hear words like neglected parks for 20 years and Fruhoff needed construction for 19 years. And, the accomplishments have been great. And, we don't want to go backwards. I'm sure of that. But to have these funds set aside, similar like to the ambulance fund, and, we needed an ambulance. We were able to spec one out, purchase it, and get it. The funds were there. We're still short a fire truck. That's a big expense coming down the pipeline. So there's a lot of things going on, obviously, and I'm glad that this council is being bold and aggressive, and to have that money put in accounts, I think is a great idea.
Mr. Mayor, I would agree with you 100% on that concept. And I've made the statement before, I think projects should chase money.
Mhm.
Money should not chase projects. So I would be in favor of looking at a solid capital plan with this year, we're going to spend this much money. We have a storm sewer lift station project that we have to do. Starting to plan that out and having a budget document, a capital plan, and saying we need to transfer this money now. I think those things together justify my decision. And that's that's all. It's not a matter of not putting the money away. It's putting away for the right reason and for the right projects.
And also, I love to plan for future too, where, I don't know if I'll be here, after 2 more years, but I'd sure like to leave this city in much better shape, which at this point, we will leave this much better shape than past councils for sure. So I'll open it up to other council members' questions. If you want the screen up or down, take it down. Okay. Vince, if you can take the screen down.
Sure. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay.
Thank you. Great.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Councilwoman Amy Baranski.
Yes, thank you. First, just, it's not a criticism, but if in the future, if you could keep in how John did it for us last year, which was really effective when we get our spreadsheet, he had draft 1 and draft 2 columns. So we didn't have to flip back and forth between the two. So we would have been easily able to pinpoint the changes you make. It's just a simple technical, but I'm literally flipping between the 2 different budgets trying to follow you. So it just is just a stylistic thing that I would prefer personally. Because then we could literally see, especially as we as a council narrowed in, we could see if we've missed something or where we didn't have consensus on things. So that's just my only critique. Otherwise, thank you for the very clear memo that articulated the changes you made and why you made them. And so I guess long story short, if I'm understanding it correctly, the difference between the budget that we looked at in a workshop session and the budget being presented today is that the revenue is decreased 1.5 million and for the reasons you articulated. Otherwise, the expenditures are the same. Is that correct?
That's correct. The expenditures remained unchanged since John presented a month ago.
They're actually down $30,000.
Oh yeah, the
we removed
pond maintenance.
Pond maintenance
Oh, okay.
charge that was actually a capital item.
Oh,
And I
got it.
think I mentioned that at the bottom of that summary.
You did. I didn't
Yeah.
catch that that was an
Oh
expense.
yeah.
Ballparking rounding off. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So a couple of questions that I have about the budget, and also questions that I had seen raised by other council people, and I haven't seen an answer, and I don't know that we'll have an answer. And I'm not sure if Mr. Denault can answer this, but what are the legal ramifications if we pass a budget that includes any PA 33 and the census then comes in over 15,000 for this year? Do we know? Will we know? Do we have to just cross our fingers and hope that we get grandfathered in? What update can you give us as council so that we can be forewarned, given all the gray area that exists?
Did you want me to take a shot at that, Mr. Mayor?
I sure, because if it's gonna be better than mine, I can just tell you mine real quick, that if the cities that did that, it would take at least a year and a half to implement and do the paperwork and sourcing and all that kind of information than I was told, but you can put it maybe in a much better terminology than I can.
No, that was pretty good. I think that's the practical side. The legal side
Right.
is our best guess is the statute allows it to happen at a moment in time. So it would be very difficult for anybody to make the argument that we would have to suddenly rescind or undo it just
Okay.
because the census numbers were certified. Not to say that that couldn't be somebody's position on that, but it seems very unlikely to me that when you utilize a tool that exists at the time you utilize it, that they would pull it out from under you retroactively. I don't know if any other communities in the state will be in this position. It's a really unique position to be in. But my best forecast is they wouldn't pull it out from under us. We just wouldn't be able to use it next year.
Is it something that could be challenged on an individual level, or would the challenge have to come from the state? In other words, who would have standing to challenge it retroactively?
In theory, both. In theory, the state could say, now that this has happened, the law says you can't use it, so therefore you need to stop. And in theory, a resident, somebody who is directly impacted by it, could potentially file something, whether it's a claim at the state level or actually some sort of litigation to end it. So again, whether that would be successful or not, it seems unlikely just because you've used the tool that was given to you to use. But if for some reason they decide to pull the tool away from you, that's something we'd have to work through.
Okay, so just so that we're all aware of the risks with whatever. Obviously, the risks if we don't do it, we have to tighten our belts even more. And there are risks if we do it, that we may have to, worst case scenario, give it back immediately and therefore do immediate cuts that would be more severe. Is that a fair summary? But your legal opinion is probably we'd be okay, hopefully, fingers crossed, knowing you don't have a crystal ball.
Yes. Legal opinion is it exists now, and there's really no authority that says that retroactively it would be undone. Absolute worst case scenario that could possibly go wrong is after the money is collected on one tax bill in the next fiscal year. In theory, worst case, we'd be ordered to pay it back to all the residents who paid it. But I can't possibly envision that, but we have to put it on the table as the worst case.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. Just so everyone knows the risks. Okay, so now to the budget questions. And I do have to apologize. I wasn't able to get through because of timing of everything, and I completely understand, and that's not an issue, but I couldn't go to the second draft to ask my question, so I might sometimes be referencing the first draft. My first question, though, is does this budget specifically include payments for any of our legacy expenses as we had done? We didn't do it this past year, but we had done it in the past. I think Councilwoman Kalka led that charge. Is there a sum in here for MERS or anything like that?
All right, Vince, I can answer that. What's in the budget is just what's the actuaries have determined is necessary according to the plans that we have in place, the correction plan. So I think a couple of years ago we had in the $800,000 extra payment on the police and fire portion of the MERS plan, and that nothing like that is included. It's
Okay.
just what the actuaries determined.
Okay, perfect. And then with regard to the allocations within the capital improvement fund, is that in the budget as itemized as a outline of what is anticipated or as a directive for how it shall be spent, if you understand the distinction?
You mean the capital improvement items, are they
Oh, yeah, the capital outlay, I might have used the wrong terminology. And I
page 20 and 21? Is
correct.
that-
Yep.
So those are our estimates based on what we felt is likely to be spent. So a few of those items we've gotten quotes on, not complete quotes, maybe one quote. For example, the street sweeper, there were 3 quotes obtained on that. One, and just using it as an example, one at 255, one at, I believe it was 229, and then one at 225. And so, but that was 3 quotes for that. The others, we really had maybe 1 quote and have yet to get other quotes. But in order to make an estimate, this is what we reasonably expect the expenditures to be. Now, you take the recreation, the park maintenance that we were discussing a little earlier, the $250,000. Again, that was funds set aside, feeling that council's probably going to make decisions around other park improvements, other park work, some projects within the next fiscal period. So you're setting that money aside. So I don't know if that.
No. So my question, I understand what it is and I understand what I'm trying to figure out, does it become set in stone that as it is outlined in the budget, not the set amount, but therefore parks shall have, therefore within the next budget year out of our capital improvement fund, we're going to buy a street sweeper, fix city hall's parking lot.
Yeah, I would say that that these are expected items. So these items put in here, and public safety, they were, and I outlined that in the budget summary, specifically what those items would be spent on. And that was on page 1, I believe, of that budget summary. At the bottom, it was highlighted in gray to kind of bring your attention to it. But that's an example of those are items we expect to spend, and we detail them. Just didn't get the final hard quotes. Now, keep in mind that this budget is it's amendable. Okay. So let's say we approve it tonight, council can come back and say later, hey, you know what? We decided we're not going to spend $250,000 on the parks. We decided that the 386 we spent for the current fiscal period, we just don't want to do anything next year. Then we could basically say, okay, we can amend that budget at that point, if that makes sense.
Right. So that's what I just want to make sure, because all of these items, and we talked about a little bit last month, some of them in particular, we as a council haven't been given information on these items, the street sweeper. This has been talked about for a year and a half now. Even before I got on council, we were talking about getting a new street sweeper, and I've yet to see any paperwork for it. So I don't want the residents to think we're getting a street sweeper because we approve a budget that has an allocation within a capital fund for it. And I might have used the wrong word when I used allocation, but we have a delineation within the budget. Doesn't mean we are for sure getting a street sweeper, or for sure spending $250 on parks, or for sure doing the fingerprint machine, or whatever these other items are. They still would come to council because things may end up being more, or we may have other needs.
That's correct, Mrs. Baranski.
Okay.
It's one of those kinds of things where if we come to you mid-year and say we need a street sweeper, and the council will say, well, is it in the budget? And it appears as if we haven't been planning. but we certainly aren't going to go buy a street sweeper without council authorization or any of those items. There are other hurdles, so to speak, to cross before any of those purchases get made. Having said that, from a standpoint of looking forward, it is our obligation as people, as managers of the various departments, to look forward and try to identify our needs. And that's part of what this is all about. Certainly, you could go to the senior center and the senior apartment building and say, we would be negligent not to come to this group and say, we need to fix that parking lot. And in order to do that, if we were on, we put money in the budget for that. That number comes from an estimate from one contractor, so that we had a ballpark to put in the budget. We will detail that much more before we do anything. We'll get additional quotes and that sort of thing. So, but at this point in the process, you've got to pick a number. So that's what that is. All of those would come back to the council before any decisions were made.
Okay, perfect. I just don't want the residents to think that we are excluding what may become a more important need, or for sure indicating that this is a done deal, because I haven't seen information on many of these things, and I'm not saying I won't vote for it, but just to make sure that the due diligence is done. So I just wanted to make sure, because this is the first time we're doing it, and I'm with you. I 100% agree that we need to have a clear delineation of our plan, a 5-year budget plan. This is a 1-year capital improvement plan as delineated in the budget.
Right.
But I didn't want to be stuck if, I know I have some ideas that are going to come up about roads or things that may trump the need for a street sweeper at $250. Maybe we can lease or whatever. So I just wanted to make sure our hands weren't tied if we approved the budget as it was drafted. So thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
I think I know the answer, but so the memo you did, where you talk about the senior housing, and then we just referenced the parking lot for that. That would come out of that fund, not the general fund, correct?
That would come out of actually Fund 270, which is page 18 and 19. So that's the senior fund, senior housing fund. So that's actually not even in that. That's not in Fund 401. That'll be, excuse me, that'll be Fund 270. So,
Okay.
yeah. And that's that is that, let me just point you to that.
No, that's okay. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah.
Just while we were talking about this, you said you got a quote for that, and I know it's not relevant. It's relevant, but not to the budget. Is that something that's already in the works, that we're in the process of getting that fixed? Because I know it needs to be fixed. So I know the seniors' ears are perking up with, are we going to get our parking lot fixed? And maybe Mr.
That was just a quote. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Thompson, but it was just a quote to, again, get an idea of what, because we gotta have a number, because you have to have an idea. Plus that helps you balance that budget, obviously. So that was just a quote. And again, Mr. Thompson, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's my understanding.
No, that's correct. In order to put it in the budget, which is what the council would expect of competent professional managers to do, we had to have some kind of a number. We had a contractor go out and give us a quote for that project. That was the quote we put in there. Before we do anything, we would go seek other quotes and do additional work.
Oh, sure.
So that's a ballpark number for a budget. The actual number will be different, might be a different contractor. So that's just something to put in the budget, so we have some idea what it might cost.
So the only thing I would just say is, in a later meeting, but a sooner rather than later meeting, we finalize that, assuming the funds are there, especially since we kind of have a ballpark starting point. So then this budget with 4.5 mils, with the allocation to capital improvements, whatever we're calling that fund, we would still end the year with a fund balance of 6 million something, is that right?
6.9 million, yes.
And the 25% is 4.6.
4.7.
Wait, what is it?
4.7.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I round down when spending. So 4.7, and what was it? 6 point So how much extra do we have above and beyond the 25%?
About 6.3 would be the unassigned fund balance if 4.5 mils were.
Okay,
So you would be over, I don't know.
1.6,
Yeah, I'm no good at math.
1.6 and 1 mil is 400,
Yeah, about 450.
450.
I'm sorry, I had to chuckle.
You got my joke about rounding down?
No, the finance manager, I'm no good at math.
I'm not good at math. Yeah, I like that.
I need my 10 key. I don't have it.
He's stealing the lawyer jokes. We always do.
Yeah.
So what's 1.6 and how many mils is that? Can you do that math? Because I can't.
That's about
4.
3.5. What?
3 to 4.
720,
Almost 4.
450 times what?
Oh,
Divided by
450.
16 is 3.66, something like that.
Yeah, it's between 3 and 4, yeah.
Got it. Okay, thank you. 3 to 4 mils. Okay, perfect. Okay, and then I think the rest of, where in the budget do we have the expenses for legal fees for the year? And legal fees for all purposes. I don't know if it's itemized out different fees like Don's fees versus lawsuits, but where is that? I just couldn't find it this year.
It's a department. It's its own department. It's Department 210.
210.
So it's in the general fund. I'll get the page number is 4.
Page 4. Okay.
And it's its own line item.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we have 160 and
I know why. Let's fingers crossed. Hope that
yeah,
happens.
we have it broken out. It's not broken out by attorney on the budget, but
Okay, and so that is expected to cover any, whether it's a labor attorney, the municipal attorney, litigation attorneys, whatever expenses we have as it relates to a lawyer. Is that budget?
yeah, any litigation I think is not in that number because we assume that's going to be covered by insurance.
Okay. What about the copay or the
Just
deductibles?
labor. That's labor and the city attorney, really. Labor attorney and city attorney.
Where do we budget for the deductibles we've had to pay for each of these lawsuits?
That should be down in department.
And I apologize. I meant to send these to you ahead of time. These questions.
I think that's in, it says it's in the property liability insurance account, but I believe that's all city insurance rolls in there. So that's at the bottom of the general fund, department 951. So page 13. And that's its own line too. So that's gone up from last year, about 80 grand.
That's our premiums went up $80,000.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'm just looking through my notes, trying to see what's left.
Oh, you're fine.
The if I read this correctly, in the DPW, had a decrease in the wages, I think. So Fund 441. Draft 1, I don't know what you did on draft 2. I don't think you changed it. You had a decrease of about 51,000 in wages.
Yeah, the DPW, that's the only department that, so their wages fall into a number of spots. So they have some wages are in 441, the department 441. Some wages are down in the motor pool fund for mechanics.
Water and sewer.
Some water, yes, some go through water and sewer, some go to the street funds. So they're kind of all over the place. So I have a spreadsheet that has every member within the DPW and then an allocation to each fund. And it's based on the payroll that they submit. So it's kind of arbitrary depending on where they're working throughout the year. So
Got it.
that's kind of why it went down. I think there's more money being allocated to other areas. You know what I mean?
Perfect. Okay, so it was really a transfer. We didn't,
It's not a reduction in personnel or anything.
all right, got it. The At this point, I think I will pass. Thank you for everything, and all your time and help.
Great. Thank you, Amy. And also, I hope everyone doesn't mind me piggybacking on their questions, but just a comment based on Councilwoman Baranski's. It's kind of nice in this budget to actually have proactive numbers for things in the future. I don't think we've gotten that very much before, and it's always kind of a guess of what it's going to be, and it might cost us this, and well, we think it's that. But so, Mr. Thompson and Vincent, thank you for taking the extra mile and being proactive with some at least budgetary numbers that help council plan and look at what I call real numbers again.
You're welcome.
Nice.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, other people did all that work. I didn't do any of it. Mr. Nayland and Mr. Walters and the other department heads did all the hard work.
I know, but I'm sure you'll pass it down. That's how it works, right? Thank you.
You led us to the water.
Yeah. Any other council member at this time? Councilwoman Suzanne Kolka.
Thanks, Mayor. I only have a couple of questions with regard to the new budget. Nice job, by the way, Vince, as your first budget. So congratulations on that. I'm sure it wasn't easy, but I appreciate it very much. So if I just get down to the basics here, because again, I am not good at math, and I mean that.
Apparently, Mr. Walters isn't either.
Right, yeah. The only person good at math in this room is you, Mr. Nealon.
I'm not so sure about me.
Right.
That's a joke.
No, it's okay. And I do appreciate the projections. Obviously, we understand it's a guesstimate, your best guesstimate of what comes down. We truly get that, and there's a lot of moving parts. So I think collectively we can appreciate that. So I just doing some math here. I had spoken to some other council members prior to today about, what might be the best way to go, considering that if what Councilmember Baranski said, that if we didn't implement PA 33 this year, we'd have approximately 4.275 million. Or if I turn to your lovely spreadsheet here, it looks like without the fund balance would be $4.4 million. And then if I look, I think the third page into that, after it says expenditures or revenues to expenditures by fund, we are going to need 4.6 million to have a 25% fund balance, or 20%, or 3.7 million if we have a 20% fund balance. And so that amount is kind of, it's more on the high side of the 25% fund balance. And so I am concerned about the future for sure. And my math, if it's 450,000 per mill, if we raised mills and we decided to implement PA 33 to give us some money that we might be able to put towards, put into our road fund, our road and street fund. And I want to talk more about that in a minute, but at 2.5 mills, that gives us $1.1 million extra. If we implemented 3 mills, that would give us 1.350 extra. So it would give us a good faith, I think, investment back into our roads. We could, in fact, start talking about improvements in the industrial park and find out what direction we need to go with that, because our bond, street bond is about to expire. And it's, it's something we need. We are, even with the street bond, we've had problems with keeping our roads maintained. And I would like to explore how we could potentially put together another bond that would be dedicated for road improvements, like a 20-year bond, a 10-year bond, so that we can definitely be addressing this issue, just like we are with the parks, having now an actual park maintenance fund, something we haven't had in the past. So for me, I think it would be wise to explore this idea, because with this street bond expiring, and according to the budget, and I did not tag that page, but it looks like it's about $1 million that is generated in revenue on that mill every year, or on that tax every year. It's not the same kind of mill. Just so the residents are aware that it's not, one mill doesn't equal $450,000. It's different.
I think it's gonna be 0.88, Susan, of a
Is it
mil.
0.88? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit less.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there will be a lower tax base. I mean, lower taxes. That's where Vince was talking, because
Right.
that's a less revenue, right?
Right, but what we generate from that extra tax, though, is an extra $1 million a year that we have been putting towards our street and our roads, which has then helped us. And I mean, let's be honest, it's really not enough.
No, it's $1 million a mile.
Right, it's $1 million a mile. So
Yes, it is.
we're that's insane. But I think if any type of PA 33 that we implement, because we don't necessarily need it to sustain our fund balance to make it through our next budget cycle, if we did allocate those funds specifically to be put into road improvements or street improvements, and we allocated that, I think the residents could appreciate that, because now we're actually tackling direct issues, and we're not leaving money in there to play with in our general fund. In other words, we're not just raising taxes, right, and leaving it in a general fund. We're allocating it specifically for areas of our city that, well, let's just be honest, have been neglected for a long time. And what has been really great about this council is that we have been able to address things that have been neglected for a long time. And starting with the city administrations, our parks, I mean, all the way down, you name it, we've covered it in the last 3 years I've been here. So I think this is the last piece of the puzzle with regard to the parks, or I mean, with regard to the streets. And I think that we should really start talking about what plan we should put in place so that we do have a real serious global projection for, we can give our residents. I don't even know how to go about doing that, but obviously this is a conversation I want to start having. But that's what I would recommend, is somewhere between 2.5 and 3 mils, with the understanding by this council that that money would really be designated specifically for our roads, not to be put in the general fund and sit there for a rainy day, because we don't need it for the rainy day fund. We need it for the roads. So I don't really have any questions with regard to the budget. Again, I think, Mr. Walters and Mr. Nealon, you both did a nice job. Thank you very much. And I appreciate Mr. Thompson's direction with all of this. I love the fact that you're thinking outside the box and you are anticipating what our questions will be. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Yeah, I think you and I are on the same page at this point, 100%. And I've actually talked to a lot of the residents, and they've seen what's happening. They comment on what's happening, and I've kind of talked about that idea and mentioned that we have a little committee going together for roads and stuff like that. So they had no issue with it at all. If it was the same going forward and using that money in the right places, it's not a problem. At least most of the people that I've talked to the last couple of weeks. Anybody else at this time? Councilwoman Kathy Blanky.
Thank you, Mayor.
Unmute Kathy.
Got it?
Got it. I agree with Councilwoman Kalka and yourself, because I feel that when we took the plunge with the 9 mil 2 years ago, it was extraordinary. And then we had the courage and the honesty and transparency to reduce that to 4.5 last year, in between doing such a interesting job of rebuilding, trying to correct. It wasn't anyone's mistake. Mike, you were up here with me, how, and several other councils. We had, let's say, we dragged our feet for many years, many terms, because we were frightened by the fact of raising taxes, because raising taxes was not what you did in Fraser. You didn't do that. So we stood our ground and did that. Unfortunately, with a whole bunch of variables in between, we did get into a little bit of a jam. So we went with the 9, we reduced it to 4.5 last year. And I feel that a 2.5 is a good, we're not raising taxes, we're reducing taxes again. And I feel that with the focus that Councilwoman Kalka mentioned, I agree with, with the infrastructure and with the roads and whatever. I would also like to just make a footnote within that recommendation and idea, suggestion, concern, that we also keep in mind, in addition to the roads, capital improvements relative to blight, relative to issues that would come up within the city, where we would feel that that would need a little TLC along the way. So that's my opinion. And I also would like to thank you, Vince, and John, for a good job. Thank you for your leadership, Mark. And I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Anybody else? I see none. Mayor Pro Tem Winnicky.
Yeah. So I'm like to just again voice and echo a lot of the sentiments out there. Personally, I'd like to see really no less of a reduction than actually 3 mills, because the 5-year forecast on the general fund is diminishing. And PA 33 is actually to offset the expenses for public safety, and whatever we have to spend to keep public safety at current levels. If we don't have that PA 33, it's going to come out of the general fund. So I'd like to see 3. I'd like to see us also establish in what we called in the private sector reserve funds. I think we call them either committed or assigned funds here to go towards the road projects and things that everyone's been talking about. So that's just my 2 cents. And then Vince, great job. John, thanks for the support. Mark, thanks for the leadership. And I think we can move forward.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilman Lessig.
Yes, a couple things. As far as PA 33 is meant to fund public safety. And if we have sufficient fund balance right now to fund road projects in the future, if we have them identified. So assigning money today to those projects is not critical. And as has been stated in the past, we can always go back and move that money back into general fund if we need it. I guess in my world, the budget document presents, and this discussion every year is, what do we need as a city? What do we value as a city in terms of quality of life programs and other things, roads, water and sewer, and how do we pay for them? So as we discuss this today, should we adopt the budget? This is a roadmap of what we want done as a council. And so I would hope that we take that into mind, and some decisions can be made soon, and other decisions like long-term road projects and where we spend that money, say industrial parks, et cetera, that can come at a later date. And I'm more than willing to listen to those. I did have one other question. Actually, it's probably two-part question. On the water and sewer side, I have not had a chance to really dig down into the water and sewer budget and to look at our 5-year capital projects goals and see how we're paying for those. So my question, and this leads to the question, is by adopting a budget, are we also adopting the water and sewer rates for next year, or would we do that by a separate resolution? Water and sewer rates don't go up until July 1st. So we do have another month in which we could come back and discuss that in a little greater detail.
I believe we'll have that on the next agenda, Mike.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Mr. Thompson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll perhaps swim against the current here for a moment. As we look forward from a financial standpoint, I think that we need to keep a couple things in mind. Let me say personally, I don't live in Fraser, as you know, and I don't pay those taxes, and I understand that. But you indicated a moment ago that road costs are $1 million a mile. And at least in my experience, in terms of that number isn't going down. In fact, construction costs generally in the last couple of months have gone up 20 or 30%. And if one assumes that we have, say, 50 miles of road and you get, say, 25 years out of a typical road, we should be doing just to kind of stay even. And that was if we're even now, and we're clearly not, but we should be doing at least 2 miles of road per year. At your $1 million a mile number, we should be spending $2 million a year on roads just to keep roads the way they are now. That doesn't improve the overall quality of the roads. And I understand the desire to reduce the tax burden on the citizens as much as possible. Our sense, or my sense, I won't speak for anybody else, but my sense is that if the revenues stayed, the revenue sources stayed exactly where they are now, the city, in terms of road quality, would continue to fall behind. We're not going to catch up. So if the revenue sources diminish now, look at the roads, this condition of the roads now, and say that's as good as it's going to get. In 2 years or 4 years or 6 years, my best judgment is they will be worse. Some will be repaired, but keep in mind that they deteriorate every year. So we repair one, but the rest of the place is deteriorating. Understand it's a tough decision and that there are lots of implications, but I don't, in my judgment, to think that we could spend $1 million a year on the roads and improve the situation, I don't think that's probably accurate. I think if we spent $2 million a year on roads, we would continue to find that over time, the situation is going to get worse, not going to get better.
Can I just make a comment real quick?
Sure, go ahead, John.
So it sounds like the consensus is 3 mills for.
No, there's no consensus.
Well, I just want to just point out what happens with 3 mills. So if there's a 3 mill assessment for PA 33, it's going to, so right now you're pretty much break even. You're eating into fund balance almost 3 million, but that's because you're putting 3 million into capital projects. So it's pretty much break even. If it's dropped to 3 mills, it'll be about $1 million a year in the deficit, but there's a strong fund balance, so you'll eat into that. But I don't think that there's going to be annually money to be put towards streets. Maybe $1 million up front, but after that, you're going to be eating into fund balance every year for about $1 million a year until it's gone. So you got, another couple of years. That's just my rough math here. So I just wanted to let you know.
Yeah, thank you, John. Yeah, and I agree with Councilman Susan Kolka 100%. Going after these roads and specifically targeting some industrial roads and the ones that are really bad and all that. And my position right now is let us ride this one out at the same rate that we're doing now. We are seeing a 0.88 reduction. That's something that even Suzanne said that we can look at another bond or maybe special assessment area in the industrial park. Talking to them, maybe getting that group together and have discussions with them. But if we really want to tackle things how we are aggressively and doing it right, and obviously there weren't very many people online to complain about the tax base and where we're going. People I've talked to and reached out to haven't had very much issues at all. And I was surprised after COVID. I thought I would be getting lit up quite a bit. Things I got lit up is about, reopening, and we're working towards doing that. So that's just kind of my position, so everybody knows it at this point. Councilwoman Amy Baranski.
Yeah, I just don't want anyone to assume that silence equals agreement or consent. I think that our citizens are resigned to the fact that council's going to strongly consider PA 33 regardless of their objection.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want the residents to think we don't hear them, and just because they didn't speak up and do the litany that we've done in the past doesn't mean we're not very conscientious about the impact that every single mill has on them day in and day out. And that, I think, I'm assuming is exactly why, and I agree, it needs to be as low as possible now, especially when we have the fund balance that we have, and especially because of mistakes we made in the past. We tried to save for a rainy day. We kept it in the general fund. We didn't allocate it. And we now have expenses for the rest of the city of Fraser at $1 million a year. We have to make sure, so I disagree with Councilman Lesage, we have to allocate. We can't wait until January or February or never, as we did with the money in the bank. So I prefer, as Councilwoman Kalka and Mayor Carnegie indicated, that we have a plan for this money. I am in the same ballpark as long as there is a plan for the money. I am on board, but if there's not a plan, I'm a zero, because consequences of something I campaigned I would never do have to be done because of the issues and situations based on advice that we were given by people that just led us down the wrong path. So that's my position on it.
And a plan is 100%. Ms. Baranski, I agree 1,000%. Hopefully we get this committee rolling forward 100 full speed and actually get the industrial complexes, DPW, AEW involved, and understanding the roads and what we can do, what we can't do, and what's achievable and what's not, and start a plan. If we go that way. Go ahead, Amy.
Yeah, and I forgot, just the last thing I did want to say is I would like to see, and if everyone else is in agreement, a specific line item of an additional sum to MERS as we did in the past, a dedication to reduce debt, not just spend. Because as much as no one wants to pay down the debt, that's what you do when you're being fiscally prudent. So I would like to see a line item in the budget. And the kicker is I'm comfortable, even if it's 400,000 or 200,000, something, because we can always add more. But I thought
we did. I thought that we approved before for the next few years. Each year is going to be 2 payments of 206,000. No.
Oh, that's for open.
Okay.
So that's the only amendment to the budget as it exists. that I would want to see above and beyond the minimum payments, something.
The corrective action plans are $200,000. My understanding is it's $200,000 for MERS every year.
Right.
We can always add more to that for sure. And that's for 20 years.
Yeah,
We can
that's,
always add more. Is that correct?
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
that's.
I think it's $200,000. I think it's $207,000 a year every year for 40 years.
Oh,
Right.
40 years.
It's
Okay.
40. Yeah.
That's for OPEB or for MERS?
That's for OPEB, which is
That's
actually OPEB, the OPEB plan is held by MERS. It is, but it's two separate plans. So there's nothing going towards pension in addition, but OPEB there is.
So
But-
we didn't make any payment last year at all to MERS, the pension?
We only made what the actuaries said that we had to, according to, and they put together a plan for us for a corrective action plan to get the plan back to good standing. So over a period of time, they give us a number, we make that contribution, we should be good in 30 years.
Okay, which is the 200, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, John, sorry. Which is the $200,000.
No, that's on the OPEB plan. Same
Okay,
thing.
so what do we pay for MERS?
Pay as you go.
MERS, we pay like I got the number right here. Annually, we pay $3 million, roughly 2.975. And that's according to the actuary. The actuary says you need to make this plan. The OPEB plan basically is, hey, pay claims as they come due. And in addition, pay this $207,000 towards to build up your balance in there. The MERS contribution is based on mortality and all that. And they come up with an annual contribution of 2.9. And that increases every year until 2040, where it keeps going up and it gets up to about $4.5 million a year.
So when is it projected to be $4.5 million a year in
It gradually increases, but
Okay.
like this, what the city did 2 years ago is they said, we're going to put 800 grand into MERS for the pension plan.
Mhm.
Well, then when the actuaries redo their calculation, that annual figure, that the requirement goes down for the future.
Right.
So
Okay.
instead of 2.9 next year, it might go to 2.8 or something. You know what I mean?
Yep, sure, 100%.
John.
I just don't want to be misled. I want to understand what this is. I don't want to, misunderstand what's happening.
John, don't long-term rates affect that, or the interest rates affect that? So if interest rates rise, then your payments actually would diminish, correct?
Right.
So year to year, they're doing that actuary evaluation each year. The problem is our rates have been low forever, right?
Right.
And same thing with the market. I mean, if the market crashes and the values go down, that's going to increase the annual contribution too. So that's just another thing.
Okay.
And-
So the math that I did actually between where we're at and the 20% fund balance, without consideration of the mills, the special assessment, we could actually put up to almost $700,000 difference in there if we wanted to go down to a 20% fund balance. So I don't feel comfortable with that, but I'm just saying that that's where we would be.
But you'd be comfortable putting something dedicated.
Oh, hell, yes. Oh, heck, yes, absolutely. I'm sorry I didn't mention it before, but yes, that is, I ran on that and I plan, yes. The only reason we didn't do it last year is because of COVID and the stock market was tanking in March. It's doing better now, but it needs to continue. So
Awesome.
And its interest rates are going up. Councilman Lessig.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I always like a little bit of back and forth on these meetings, and Council Member Baranski said that she disagreed with me, but actually she agrees with me. In terms of capital improvements, I'm all for looking at them. We have a large amount of cash in our general fund balance right now. That's not going anywhere unless we allocate it and appropriate it. So moving it over into a capital improvement fund tonight or this week or next week is not going to really change anything in the next year. If we left it in there and come back, the roads subcommittee or AEW comes back with some projects, we can certainly allocate the money then. As I said, and I continue to say, projects should chase money. If I had $1,000 in my pocket and I went to Best Buy, it'd be a different thought process than if I had $50 in my pocket. So I would like to see us spend this money effectively and properly. As far as OPEB goes, John did correctly indicate that we have a pay-as-you-go premium amount that we pay. PA 202 has a $207,000 annual payment or so. Plus, there is an actuarial contribution that they recommend, that it's called the ARC, that is the current employee cost for future healthcare. Those are employees today that we receive their benefits of their services, and future taxpayers will pay for their healthcare. So that is a longstanding problem in the state and in the country, but it is something where we could actually, should that's a decision, we could actually put additional monies towards that. So it's all about where you want the money to go. I would not want to see a 20% fund balance at the end of 2022. There's a lot of uncertainty, particularly in the areas of PA 33 and just the future economy. And so I would like to keep it at 4.5. I think that's reasonable. We spend down some fund balance over the next few years, and we bring that fund balance in line with our goals over 3 or 4 years as opposed to a single year. So that's my position, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilwoman Patrice Shernack.
Yeah. So I'm going to agree and disagree with pretty much everybody, but I do agree that we need to be very wise with our money. However, although Ms. Baranski won't address the elephant in the room, I will. Every time we have money in our savings account above and beyond our 25, well, I consider 25% healthy, then everybody wants raises. And not that we don't want to give raises, but when we have such a deficit in our MERS and OPEB, I don't think that's being responsible, as we are dealing with money, and that's everybody's money, every single resident. And then when we say no, we get them forced down our throats. And as she addressed it, it is a continual thing until the end of time. So while I would love to, and in a perfect world, give people raises every single year, because I do realize we have a lot of very hardworking individuals for us. I truly appreciate their work too. I'm just saying, we can't constantly be having money sitting there, because every time we do, we end up with, like we just dealt with, and other issues. I don't want to deal with that anymore. So we have specific needs we know need to be addressed. We know we have money that is sitting in our general fund. So I say, this isn't chasing money. This is, we know what money we have there. I would like to see a very large payment to MERS and OPEB out of this budget already, just set it up. If we don't want to put it aside for building it up and moving forward, I say we take it and we spend it now. And if we hold on to it for the next several years, as though I would really want to, because I am a saver, that's how I work personally. But I also don't have somebody pulling at the budget every time there's money in there. I think we need to be prudent. We need to do the things that have not been done in decades. We have a very aging infrastructure, and that's one of the things I've said for years. I'm glad to see that we are moving things forward. I'm glad residents are seeing what we're doing, because I know that I can speak for myself and speak for most people's members on this council. I'm only here because I genuinely care what happens to this community. I care about what happens to not only what my home's worth, which is my biggest asset in life. I care about what your homes are worth. And if we wouldn't have enacted that PA 33 originally, we would have seen our community decimated. I don't want to see that happen to us. I plan on being here till I die. I just say, we need to come up with a plan. And granted, we don't need to do it this very second, but I want it done in the next month. I want a clear and concise plan to come up with the next month. I don't want AEW telling us and doing another study and paying them a fortune to tell us what's wrong. They've done that for the last, 4 years. We have a litany of things we know are wrong with our infrastructure. I say we each compile a list that we feel, list your top 10. Combine the list, we can get them all to get them to Mr. Thompson, if he's still here, whomever our new city manager is going to be. I'm sure Vince, he's great about jumping in. He'll jump in as well. Put together this list, come up with the plan, enact the plan, and move forward. We have dragged our feet so long in this community over so many things that I say it's just time to rip the Band-Aid off, people. It's just time to rip it off. That's just my opinion.
Mike, you're muted.
I'm sorry, they've cut it off because of the feedback, and I forget. Anybody else at this time? Okay, well, I don't believe this council is dragging its feet at all, and I don't believe they do that whatsoever. And if we have the will to get it done, it will get done. That's how way I feel. And I think that this council has proven that. Anybody else? Okay, Councilwoman Baranski.
I'm going to take a chance and throw out a motion. I have no idea.
I was just going to do it too, but go ahead.
I'm going to
Go
beat you
right
to it.
No, you go right ahead.
I'm going to propose that we adopt the budget with 3 mills, with the addition of an additional $200,000 payment to MERS for pensions, if I said that right, John and Vince.
You want to do 2 motions?
Well, how do I do that?
Just enact the PA 33 and then allocate funds. Second.
It seems like the PA 33 action needs to be a separate action to adopt.
Okay.
That needs to be one action specifically, and,
Right.
and whatever it is council wants to do, I would suggest that that be done separately. And then we address the other millage and the budget as a second item.
Okay, I just thought we did it different last year because I know I did not vote for the budget because of the mills, but that's okay. Okay, so I will make.
There's one other thing too, though. You got to remember that if you're changing the mills on PA 33, the budget does change.
Of course.
Obviously, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think they can. Yeah.
Okay.
So I will make a motion that PA 33 be enacted at 3 mills.
I'll second.
Okay.
For the 2021-22 fiscal year.
Correct.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions on that motion? I see none. Mr. Thompson, can you call a vote?
Member Baranski,
Yes.
Member Blanky,
Yes.
Mayor Carnegie,
No.
Member Kauka,
Yes.
Member Lesich,
No.
Member Shornack,
Yes.
Member Winowicki,
Yes.
So 5-2, that's good for the
Correct.
budget, right? Done?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
That's-
Motion carries.
That's PA 33, right?
Yes, that's PA
That's not the,
33.
you said the budget.
No.
Okay.
No,
I'm sorry.
then it has to be. I thought that had to be super majority.
5-2.
It is.
Yeah, Don,
7. I mean, 6 to 7.
Mm-mm.
go ahead, Don.
He's just saying 5.
Oh,
I was just saying 5.
oh, 5. So you have 5. So motion carries.
This is appropriate, but I thought you were in agreement with that range.
I stated I was where it was at.
Oh, you meant 4.5. Maybe I
Yeah,
misunderstood.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I misunderstood.
That's okay. We'll make it work.
Okay. And now I'd like to make another motion.
Go ahead.
I would like to make a motion, or no, I guess now we have to do the second millage as,
Property tax millage, yeah.
so whatever that was advocated for.
It's resolution 2021-004.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt that resolution with regard to the general mills for the city.
Second.
Okay, you have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions on that motion? I see none. Mr.
Mhm.
Thompson, please call a vote.
Member Baranski,
Yes.
Blanky,
Yes.
Mayor Carnegie,
Yes.
Member Halka,
Yes.
Member Lesich,
Yes.
Member Shornack,
Yes.
Member Winawiki.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay.
Good job, everybody. Councilman Baranski.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to pass or to adopt the budget as outlined with the addition of a line item, additional payment to MERS for pensions for $200,000 or of $200,000.
Well, if Mr. Denal, perhaps you can help me here, but if we adopted 2021-004, we adopted the millage and the appropriation. Is that not correct?
I was actually thinking the same way you were thinking. The motion was to adopt resolution 21-4. And the way that it's worded is there's two things that were resolved by it. The millage rate will be 20.4885. And the amounts appropriated to defray the expenditures and meet the liabilities of the local unit for the ensuing fiscal year, including a statement of estimated revenues, are appropriated in the attached budget. So that resolution, Ms. Baranski, I don't know if maybe it wasn't clear, did adopt the budget as well. And I don't know if anybody knew that when
It
you
was
made
not clear to me.
motion.
So let me make
Because
this
someone-
suggestion.
Yeah, I think someone helped you try to get to the resolution, but unfortunately, part 2 of the resolution has the budget adoption in it.
All right,
So
then I'm going to make a motion to withdraw
Rescind.
the adoption of resolution number 2021-004.
Would that be a motion to rescind
well,
or reconsider?
Amend.
you could just do a motion to amend the budget now that it's been
Yes.
approved.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. All right. Perfect.
Yes.
I'll do
That
that.
makes more sense than adopting a budget and then not adopting the budget. Let's just adopt it and now.
That's
amend it.
okay.
Yeah,
I took the lead instead of looking. See, I did not read it myself.
That's
Mistake
okay.
number one.
I'm glad you
The
put yourself out there.
I
The
will make a
result,
motion.
the result will be the same, Amy. So good
Yeah,
job.
there you go. Well, I don't like not looking prepared. I'll make a motion to amend the budget as adopted to include a payment to MERS for pensions of 200,000.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and seconds. Questions on the motion, Councilman Lexich?
Question. Yes. I don't really like the way we're doing this because I wanted to do a clean budget motion. And I apologize for being one of the 7 that apparently didn't understand that's what was happening. And so I guess if I vote yes on this, I've adopted the budget. Apparently I can't make any comments about the budget itself now that it's already been adopted. So I guess it's a moot point. So let's go on and vote. I guess my problem is I don't know how much revenue, what is the new revenue amount for the budget that we just adopted that reduced PA 33 by 1.5 mils?
It's 15,210,153.
Okay, how much did we reduce the revenue by?
What was it before? 15,
Half.
8, almost 15.9. So it went down about 800,000, 820.
Okay, so we
$1
dropped
million.
revenue by 800, and then we're adding 200 into MERS, so that's going to drop our fund balance by an additional approximately $1 billion, or $1 million. not
$1 billion.
I've been thinking federally.
What?
I apologize, it was approximately 1 million.
The new appropriation would be 3,669,566. So
Okay,
the
so,
projected ending fund balance would be $5.6 million at
all right,
22.
so we are, and that includes $1.7 million in excess transfer out over to the capital fund budget for projects to be named later.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, there's a motion and a second.
Any other comments or questions on that motion? Patrice, you had your hand up or no?
No.
Okay. Mr. Thompson, please call a vote.
Just to reiterate, this is a motion to add $200,000 to the budget for payment to MERS, just so everyone remembers.
Correct.
Member Baranski,
Yes.
Member Blanky,
Yes,
Mayor Carnegie,
Yes.
Member Kalka,
I'm going to say yes, but I do want more later.
Member Lesich,
No,
Member Shornack,
Yes.
Member Winawiki.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Is everybody good? Does anyone want to take a 5-10 minute break, or you everyone
Oh,
good?
yes. A
Yeah,
5
we
minute
can.
break would be amazing.
Okay, we'll adjourn the meeting at this point for a 10-minute break.
Sorry, I was here.
No, you're good. Thank you.
I was waiting for Don.
Oh. Get off the phone, Don. Hang up. You're getting, you can't get double hours for talking during a council meeting.
2 different cities.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
That's right. Well, welcome back, everybody. Call the meeting back to order at 8:38 p.m. Item C, Lieutenant Association's wage agreement. Mr. Thompson, you can have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We spoke about this at our last meeting in a closed session, and this is the action that results from that discussion. It will result in resolving the wage reopeners in the lieutenant's contract for the prior 2 years and the coming year of January 2022. It amounts to a $1,250 one-time payment in each of those years. And that's the sum total of the issue. And as I said before, it resolves the wage reopeners in that contract for all 3 of those years. So what we would like to follow up on the discussion we had from last meeting is simply a motion to authorize us to proceed, and we can take it from there.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Baranski.
I make a motion to authorize the city to ratify the agreement as referenced.
Second.
Support. We have a motion and second. Any comments or questions?
Mr. Mayor, I missed who made the second.
Mike Lessig did.
Okay, thank you.
Any comments or questions on that motion? Okay, we'll bring it back for a vote.
Member Baranski,
Yes.
Member Blanky,
Yes.
Member Mayor Carnegie,
Yes.
Member Kalka,
Yes.
Lessig,
Yes.
Member Shornack,
Yes.
Member Winowicki.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Item D, state of emergency update. I'm sure maybe everybody's aware today that the CDC did drop its guidelines for the masks. If you do have the, there's more to it, but if you have your immunizations in the second one in the past 2 weeks, masks are no longer needed. Numbers are way down. The county, everything's going well. There's actually more shots available now than there are demand for them. So at this time, we are just going to, so we can move forward and get some normalcy back, we're gonna drop the state of emergency for the city of Fraser at this time. Is there any comments, questions, or Mr. Nault, do we need to do anything legally for that?
I just would like to and I don't know that it's really legal in nature, but it is in some ways. I would like to point out that if the council decides to end the state of emergency, that will mean that none of the boards and commissions will have the ability to still utilize Zoom if they have any health conditions or concerns. So that will mean that all public will be coming in to City Hall to see them and you, and that we will have to find ways to make sure everybody feels comfortable and safe in those roles. If we kept the state of emergency in place, it doesn't mean council has to meet by Zoom, but it would give those boards and commissions at least the option for any of them that may have any concerns about their own health or the health and safety of their relatives. Just want to point that out, Mr. Mayor.
You could define that a little bit better, because when I was on a conversation with the county, they did not say that the cities could move at their own discretion going forward for meetings in person and stuff like that. So
right. So to better clarify that, as the legislature and governor adopted and amended the Open Meetings Act at the end of last year, they included a provision that says after March 31st, to meet virtually like this, a board, commission, council, school board, doesn't matter who, public body of any kind, needs to have some sort of local state of emergency to rely upon in order to meet in a virtual way. If there is no state of emergency in the county and there isn't one in the city, then that would mean that the zoning board, the planning commission, the city council, Parks and Rec, any commission that we have or board that we have would be required to meet in person going forward.
So that's, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'll let the questions go. Councilwoman Baranski, you were first.
Oh, yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure, we have to vote on whether we are going to rescind this, correct?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
the way you said it, I was like, oh, we're done? Okay, I'll
Yeah.
be down there.
No, no, we have to vote on it.
And
I would
then-
like to be done with it.
I get that, but at the same time, I certainly
Yeah.
want to make sure that we have options. And so that's going to be my question for you, Don, is there a way that we can amend our globally the bylaws or something to allow this, or is it only through an emergency order such that boards and commissions and such could meet, where some could participate electronically or whatever this is called?
Right. This virtual, this electronic type
Thank you.
attendance, yeah, whichever word, they're both fine. Both of those words apply here. And no, there would be no way we could amend a bylaw, a rule of procedure. We couldn't pass a resolution. The only choice we have is if we want those boards and commissions to have at least the discretion to decide for themselves, we would need a state of emergency to still be in place.
And then is it such that, so for example, if we kept it in place and we as a council, 5 of us could come, 2 of us could not, given any given particular circumstance, let's say next month I thought I had an exposure, I could participate virtually. If we were still under it, I could participate virtually as opposed to not being able to attend at all.
Yes, I do believe the Open Meetings Act allows for specific members, like a single member here or there, to miss or be electronic for something like that without a state of emergency. For example, if you had an exposure and you didn't want to risk exposing others, you would probably still be able to participate virtually, but the rest of the meeting would be in person. That means public, that means presenters, that means staff, and that means council. So without the state of emergency, we don't have the option of going even hybrid. It's strictly in person at this point.
And then how would it work if we kept the thing? Would each board and commission decide as a body how they want to do it? As you know, the basic meeting. So we as a council could say, okay, we're going to open our doors or we're not.
Yes, each individual public body can make its own choice if the state of emergency exists.
Simple majority?
Simple majority, yep. This council could say we'd like to be in person going forward, have the public come back in. You could create a hybrid approach. I have a school district that I work with right now. They have a hybrid where all staff and all the board come to the facility for the meeting. They put up a giant big screen TV and they have it all hooked up where the public can participate telephonically or through the, they don't use Zoom, they use WebEx, but same concept.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Well, I guess I was excited and a little premature. So Mr. Denault, I guess we're gonna have to talk next week and lay out some guidelines and rules and how we want to do this with the city manager and some departments and other people involved. So
sure.
But Mayor Pro Tem, I'm sorry, Susan Kolka, you were next.
Thanks, Mayor. I guess my concern is I get that this is like breaking news in the last hour, but I mean, our Michigan Department of Health and Human Services really needs to have some sort of directive for Michigan in terms of how we're going to be going forward with this. I mean, you can't just walk into a restaurant or a store without your mask on right now. There's still there's still, laws in place right now until our state makes some significant decisions here. And my guess is tomorrow there will be, some sort of press conference with regard to this. But I think it's a little bit premature just to say, you know what, we're going to just not continue this. I want to get back as quickly as everyone else. Don't get me wrong. I just don't want to give the residents the wrong impression that they can just go into, mire without their mask on. I don't think that's not what this is saying, even if they've been vaccinated, because I don't think that's true. I don't think that's what the law is at this point. We have to wait for our state to put together their plan of action moving forward. So, well, I can appreciate what the CDC says, and I can appreciate what our specific county is doing. From a legal standpoint, we have to listen to, and I would have said the governor, but she doesn't have the power to do it. It's got to come from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. So once we have some sort of press conference and we have those additional guidelines, that's what we got to follow. I think we should just extend it for next month and we can talk about it then.
We'll do that. We'll do that. Yeah, no, actually, we talked about this last week, and it wasn't because of the news today. We just talked about last week to try to get things back on track, start
Sure.
turning out pavilions, start, doing things. And to do that, we would like to have that eliminated because we don't want to give a false pretenses that we're running under a state of emergency still, but yet, we're going to be renting out equipment and parks and pavilions. So it was all kind of a consensus before this happened, but I know talking to some of the other city mayors and other people who've dropped it, obviously they've done things a little bit different in their city too. So I guess I was just a little premature, and we'll get it figured out the right way. Mayor Pro Tem Winowicki.
Yeah, I concur with Councilwoman Kauka that I was going to suggest that we extend it for at least another 30 days until the next regularly scheduled council meeting.
Yeah, no, it's going to give us time to put plans together anyway.
Mhm.
Okay.
I got a question, Mike.
Go ahead, Mr. Lessig.
It's actually, I think it might be for Don. There's been discussion that council needs, that I think the administration would like direction from council through a motion and a vote or clarification on whether we can rent out pavilions. That has been a question that was asked. And can we rent out pavilions to people? Can we reserve pavilions for people? Because there are people that want to have parties in our parks. And at the present time, there is a moratorium on any kind of reservation or rental. We're giving up revenue, but more importantly, I think we're creating a state of confusion a bit on our park pavilion policy. Does the state of emergency preclude us from making a decision to allow for park rentals or park reservations? That's the question. I guess that's for Don.
And that's a good question, and absolutely not, Mr. Lessig. The state of emergency is simply a recognition that we still have conditions in our city that warrant some caution and care. But if we have, as a council, policy direction to administration that the council would like to move forward in a certain way, so long as that's done within the MDHHS guidelines and the MIOSHA rules, that would certainly be okay, even with the state of emergency in place.
Okay, yeah, I had a resident that reached out to me and they were wanting to hold an end of the year party for their special needs students. And so I thought I'd ask that. So how would we go about communicating that to the administration directly so that they have a clear understanding of our position?
It would take some sort of motion or maybe a more carefully drafted resolution if you wanted to get into specifics. But if there's just a general policy parameter that any member of council would like to propose as a motion, certainly you could do that. That would give the administration at least general policy guidance to move forward.
Yeah, I don't want to make a resolution or belabor this. I'd like to get this kicked off so that we can open up a little bit. So looking for your guidance. Could that be part of this motion where we are enacting a state of emergency for another 30
No.
days? But okay, that should be separate.
Completely separate concept. It's really a policy choice rather than a state of emergency resolution. Yes.
Okay. Does that need to be a motion or could it be just a general consensus and with no objections?
If Mr. Lessig, you're testing my memory, so I would defer to others. If there actually is a moratorium that council enacted, then only council can undo it.
We
If it's
did not.
actually-
We did
If it's
not.
just an administration decision, then administration has the discretion absent policy to move forward as it sees appropriate.
Okay.
Kind of what I wanted to do in a whole, but Kath, Councilwoman Blanky,
Thank you.
you're muted, Kath.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. I can see where Mr. Lessig is going with in current time. Yes, normally with outside activities, especially, people are so anxious to get out there. However, I think that if we start like cherry picking what we're going to agree to, what we're not going to, what we want to open, what we don't want to open, gets kind of confusing. I mean, I think this whole COVID thing on many levels has been confusing through the whole journey, in as much as we all know the difference from day to day, week to week, it's changed. And I just feel that I agree with the mayor and Mrs. Kalka that and Mr. Winowicki that we should, we set a month, let's make it a month. And then from that point going forward, make our guidelines and criteria so everything is fair across the board and every activity or every policy has an even playing field. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Mayor Pro Tem Winowicki.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to extend the state of emergency in the city of Fraser until the next regularly scheduled council meeting.
Second.
I'll second. Now I got to second it again because there's so many people seconding it.
We have one next week, so do you want to change it for the 30 days?
No, the
meeting?
regular, not
Okay.
special meetings, but regular.
Regular.
scheduled.
Wait, when did we
Wait.
schedule a special meeting for
Wait.
next week?
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe I'm off.
Two.
Because I have other, yeah.
Me too.
Okay, you got a motion on the floor? I'm sorry.
Yes.
And we have a second.
Yes.
Yes, we
Mr.
definitely
Thompson,
have a
please.
second.
Call vote.
Member Baranski,
Yes.
Member Blanky,
Yes.
Mayor Carnegie,
Yes.
Member Kalka,
Yes.
Member Lesich,
Yes.
Member Shornack,
Reluctantly, yes.
Member Winowicki.
Yes.
Sorry, Patrice, I tried.
I feel very lied to. I want you to know this. You had me all hyped during the break like this was going to happen.
We're all excited.
This is a very big step today. The CDC with this is a huge step
No,
going
it's huge.
forward. So we
I
just
saw-
got to be patient. We're almost there, guys. We're almost there.
I swear to God, I saw cars driving down a road with their hands out the windows, flying their masks in the hand, honking their horns. It was so funny. I wish I could have snapped it or something.
Awesome.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Lesich.
I would like to make a motion to communicate to the administration that pavilions in our parks can be reserved and or rented, depending on their discretion, the local state of emergency notwithstanding.
I will second that motion. I have no problem with that. Any other comments, questions? Councilwoman Baranski.
Well, I'm kind of confused by the wording of the motion because the former city manager closed down all of this last March. And we have stayed out of that policy decision and let the city manager determine the activities of city business. And if I heard your motion correctly, you want us to direct them to use their discretion to decide when to rent. And that's what I thought we were doing now, is letting them decide what to open, when to open, what to do, not to do, i.e. And I don't have a problem if the motion is, the policy is the parks are open, but I just want to clarify what you mean when you said in their discretion.
Sure. Yeah, that was a lot longer than my motion, which I was an off the cuff motion. Mr. Nealand, I received a call from a resident or from a teacher that wanted to have an end of the year party. And she had left a few messages with our city asking about reservations. She hadn't received a reply. And so I took it upon myself to do a three-way email between myself, Mr. Nealand, and this person. And he indicated that he was waiting on direction from the council and because of the state of emergency. And Mr. Nealand, I see you're here. So if you can clarify that, I just would like to make sure that you know where we stand so that you are comfortable with the direction so that you don't get caught crosswise with a council that says that you're not sure where we fit. If it's no, it's no. If it's yes, it's yes. But I'd like to leave that ultimately in your hands so that you know I'm comfortable with it. I made the motion. But that's the direction I'd like to go. So that's where I'm coming from. I want to make sure you're clear on this.
If I might jump in,
Go ahead.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Okay. I know that, coming on board and the numbers are really, really high. As of even a month ago, I believe it was around between 5 and 8,000 and almost 10. And it just was, for me, unconscionable to open up at that time when Michigan had spiked up. And, it was still, we're coming out of winter, it's still cold and this sort of thing. Everything seems to be coming together. It's warming up. I've been monitoring the numbers. The numbers were down 1,000. And I had been thinking, I'd like to open up a little more. We're doing the farmers market. We launched that over the weekend. It went really well. People space pretty good, but you're outdoors. And so I was thinking that we could open the outdoor activities like the pavilion rental, baseball fields, because I had a moratorium even on baseball field rentals. I made one exception for a particular team that was a union team, and they were abiding by strict COVID rules. And I allowed them to rent the field. This was like a couple of weeks ago. But I was really wanting to open up. I did want to move and lock, in accord with the council. In a state of emergency, I began to ask myself, okay, the numbers are down. I'm comfortable opening up. I'm, with the outdoor activities, but, I knew that council is having a meeting and that, you'd be, voting on whether to, extend the state of emergency or not. And so it's kind of waiting for that. And so, in the meantime, callers calling in and inquiring, it's like, council lifts that state of emergency. I know that I'm completely good. The numbers are down. I'm feeling comfortable. It's warming up. People are coming outdoors. With the council, if voting to extend the state of emergency, I am comfortable renting out the pavilions. It's an outdoor activity. And by the way, my concern with that was people being, even though it's outdoors, they're under one roof. And so you're close together. And I know that, say, Stephens Park, you can rent out to as many as, there could be as many as 70 participants there. So, you figure, they're close together. And there's a propensity, to pass the COVID if they take their masks off to eat and drink or whatever. And so that was the thought process behind why not rent the pavilion. So I wanted to just wait, let the numbers fall a little bit more. Currently, I feel pretty comfortable. Why? Because vaccinations are 55% in Michigan and climbing higher every day. The COVID numbers have died back down, which I was looking for. So even if the state of emergency is extended, I'm comfortable renting the pavilions out. I'm also comfortable renting the baseball fields, the outdoor activities, kind of easing into this thing. It's warming up. I want the residents out there, enjoying themselves. So I was simply waiting to see what would happen, but I'm actually okay with that outdoor activity rental. So I can start that. And by the way, a lot of these callers are, and folks that are inquiring about it, it's for June and generally around the month of June and a little later. So another thought process is as we approach that date or those dates in June and July, COVID probably be even lower. You have even more people vaccinated. So that was the thought process behind it. But I believe I'm okay, and I'm going to move forward and go ahead and start renting the pavilions out. And again, a lot of these are not until next month anyway. So they're paying today. I'm sure the numbers will be lower then. I'm personally okay with it. Any indoor activities, opening up the senior activity center for me, I'm going to seek out council's approval and direction on something like that. That's a big deal. Plus it'll involve the hiring of other employees, and I'd have to get council approval for that.
Okay. Well, so I'll ask do you feel you have enough direction from the council and are comfortable making that decision? And I'm pleased that you're ready to open that up, but do you have enough, do you feel the council is giving you the authority and the discretion? Because if so, I'll just withdraw my motion.
It appears that as administration, in terms of operations, I have the authority and discretion to make a decision like that anyway. But I respect the council, and really I would want to hear what each of you thought, tonight on that outdoor. I'd like to start renting, but if the majority of you say, Vince, I think it's too early, we've just voted to extend the state of emergency, I'm going to respect that because I respect you, the council. And I don't want to move out of lockstep with that. I mean, I get what Don Denault saying, it's kind of an administrative decision, but I'm just cognizant of council. I'm cognizant of what you think. And I just want to be respectful of that. So if I'm hearing from the majority of you that you really frown on it right now, if you want my opinion, it's not a problem for me. I'm looking at the numbers. The vaccinations are climbing. I'm okay. It's outdoors. As you pointed out earlier, folks that are vaccinated now, they're saying you don't have to wear I think it's outdoors. I think it's a little overkill if I didn't do it at this point, but I'd like to hear from the majority of you, just to hear what your opinions are and then go from there.
So if you
Mr.
had-
Mayor, let me suggest that if anybody objects to us renting out the pavilion or the ball fields, say so, and if not, my sense is that most council members are okay with it from the discussion. If there's an objection, let us know about it, and otherwise, I think we can move on here. But we do, if there's somebody objects, let's hear it.
There's a motion and a second on the table, unfortunately, procedurally.
We could just take a vote and we'd all know. But that's
Wait,
the
no.
simplest.
Hold on. Patrice Chernak, go ahead.
I would just like to ask Mr. Lessig to amend his motion to say that we will leave it to discretion of our Mr. Thompson and Mr. Nealon to make that decision. And then I'm 100% yes.
Well, I'm not going to name names. I would name positions. but
Okay,
yes.
fine.
I said the administration.
Okay, fine. I'm
That's
good
all.
with that.
That's
The administration to
defer
make
to
that
the
decision.
administration. But I just wanted to communicate whether the council was comfortable. So I guess I'm going to call the question and we can all vote on it, and then they'd have a absolute decision. So.
Well, I'd like an opportunity to say something because I've had my hand up since literally Mr. Nealon started.
Go ahead, Susan. Can't hear you.
Suzanne, we can't hear you. But yes, everybody should have an opportunity to speak before the question is called.
Yeah. Go ahead, Susan.
I guess my perspective is, number one, I don't know how we even ended up on such a lengthy discussion on this. At the beginning of March, when all of this was closed down, it was at Mr. Thompson's direction. I really don't know why we're even discussing this right now. It isn't our call. It isn't. It's our administration's call. And so therefore, I feel comfortable with Mr. Thompson making those decisions collectively with his staff as it relates to obviously considering all the things that Mr. Nealon just said. A simple phone call to Mr. Thompson about this probably could have alleviated all of this issue, I would think, instead of taking up like 20 minutes of our time on something that's not even on the agenda. If our administrators feel that it is in our best interest that we can move in that direction, I am all for it. That is why we have them in these roles. So thank you.
I apologize.
Okay. Mr. Lessig, you want to withdraw your motion?
No, I'd like to call the question.
Okay. Was anyone else would like to speak before he calls the question? I see none. Mr. Thompson, please call a vote.
Member Baranski,
Can you please restate the motion as worded?
do the best I can.
Sorry,
The
Mark.
motion was to reinstate pavilion rentals at the discretion of the administration. And I think went on to say, we said discretion a couple of times in there, I think, but basically it was to allow the administration to use their discretion regarding pavilion rentals and baseball field rentals.
Yes, close enough.
Is that, okay, you agree with that? Okay, as that is
I do.
worded, I will vote yes.
Thank you.
Member Blanky,
Yes.
Mayor Carnegie,
Yes.
Member Calca,
Yes.
Member Lesich,
Yes,
Member Shornack,
Yes.
Member Winawiki.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Item E, the city manager's position direction. Miss Amy Sell.
Yeah, thank you. I
evening.
want to, first of all, thank the council and mayor and the candidates that put so much time and effort and thoughtful intention into the interviews and process that we had, culminating with the interviews last week. And I look forward to getting direction from council on next steps.
Let's see, Mayor Pro Tem Winawiki, you have the floor.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to proceed with contract negotiations for the city manager position with Elaine Levin.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions on that motion? Mr. Lesage.
yes, I think Ms. Levin did a great job, along with a couple other candidates that I really thought each of them had unique talents and experiences that could have been a benefit to the city of Fraser. If this vote is successful, which I expect it is, I will welcome her with open arms and look forward to her taking the helm. Thank you.
Thank you. My only comment is, yes, I think the candidates did fairly well. A couple stood out for me. I must comment, though, on one, Mr. Downey. I believe for someone to want to take the effort and move into the city and be a part of where he works and, have a part of the city and be involved and have a stake in the game is very important too. But they did very well, and I'm looking forward to the next city's manager's position and get it rolling. And so Mark doesn't have to drive so far every day and enjoy the summer for sure. So anybody else? Councilwoman Patrice Shornack.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to all that applied and thoroughly impressed with all of them. Amy, thank you for the group of talent you brought to the city. Wish we would have had that, I don't know, several years ago. But I just want to say I appreciate everybody, including the staff, taking the time to evaluate each person. Also because they have to work with that person on a daily basis, and we just kind of happen one-off. So really appreciate all the effort that was put forward by everybody for that decision, or for the people that are interviewed in the decision we'll be making.
Great, thank you. Councilwoman Suzanne Coker.
Thanks, Mayor. Just very briefly, I just wanted to apologize for not being here during those interviews. I know how important they were, but I wanted to commend, obviously, all the candidates. I did watch the meetings, and I wanted to commend Ms. Sell for all of the hard work that you put into. The videos were amazing. I can't even express the gratitude that I have, really. This was so comprehensive that, and with my fellow council members asking all the questions appropriately, for me, it was very close. I want the candidates to know that it was very close. It was kind of painstaking, but we got through it. And I think that Ms. Levin will make a great addition to our dynamic here in the city of Fraser. And I can't wait to meet her personally. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Mr. Thompson, can you please call a vote?
Member Baranski,
Yes.
Member Blanky,
Yes.
Mayor Carnegie,
Yes.
Member Calca,
Yes.
Member Lesich,
Yes,
Member Shornack,
Yes.
Member Winawiki.
Yes.
Motion carries. Ms. Hill, I believe you have your direction. Please keep us posted with any news or updates or anything you need, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item 10, pending items of unfinished business, the report of city administration. Mr. Thompson.
Mr. Mayor, we have some other items to talk about this evening yet, so I'll keep this very short, but we had anticipated another meeting next week, but evidently we haven't made that clear to the council members. And I guess we need to make that either clear or decide not to have another meeting next week. And as we can go either way. I'm not sure that there's anything that is critical on the agenda next week. So clearly this is our regular meeting. But I think we better make that decision now, because if we are going to meet next week, we need to do obviously planning, and if not, then we'll kick it back to the next regular meeting.
No, when we met earlier, Mark, I thought that there was some specifics you wanted to nail down and get it completed and all that, but
and I don't have any of that in front of me, Mr. Mayor, right now, so
I know it's been
I can't say. I'm trying to remember what we had on the agenda, and we have a number of items.
Yeah, we do have a whole list, but we can do that. I know it was a crazy last few weeks for everybody, and
Yes,
trying to get caught up. Absolutely. So I don't think that we really have to impose. We've had a lot of meetings, and we can wait till I believe our next meeting unless something comes up.
Well, let me make the suggestion that if we look at that list, and there is something, and I apologize for not having it in front of me, that absolutely is time sensitive. Maybe we'll let council know, but based on the discussion that's occurred here, we'll plan on not having a meeting unless it's absolutely necessary.
Sure. Yeah, I could go through a lot of it, but it's nothing urgent. Mayor Pro Tem Winowicki.
Yeah, I just want to say next week I have a previous commitment and would not be able to attend.
Okay. Ms. Baranski?
Well, I was just going to ask that I'm not opposed to having additional meetings, but maybe if we knew about them ahead of time and what it was. I thought we finally we're back to, okay, now we can get back to once a month. So maybe if we got this information ahead of time, we wouldn't have been so surprised. That's all.
I think we just got backed up and we had so many meetings, Amy, that the dates just fell into each other. And then with the absence of Mr. Thompson, we just tried to.
No, I get it. I just think in terms
That's
of what it is you guys were even contemplating putting on the agenda. Obviously, you've had communications and they just haven't trickled down to us. So.
Yeah, no, a lot of it's the old stuff like this, the street sweeper, the A&W updates, the restorations of Fruhoff, Utica Road, the valves installation, make sure it was all more of the follow-up actions that council's been asking about.
Got it.
And trying to wrap up. And we wanted to do that after the budget, so.
Yeah, give us 2 weeks.
Absolutely. I have no problem at all. You can see I'm worn out because it's been a.
That's my fault anyway.
It's been a lot of city hall time in the last few weeks.
And if I may comment too, I have to go back and forth to Boston quite a bit in the last couple of weeks, so I don't want to have to miss any.
Oh, we will schedule it as normal.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Although I got to go to Boston that weekend. I'll figure it out. Don't worry.
If you need a flight passenger, let me know. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Thompson?
No, sir.
Okay. Let's see. Report of Mayor and City Council. I will start up from my top and I'll go right to left because I don't want to say Patrice Shornack first. So, Miss Amy Baranski, you win.
Okay, couple things. Just things that I didn't get a chance to email just because with the budget and stuff, and I'm glad we got that done. So thank you to everyone for all of their hard work in getting this budget done. This is definitely the quickest it's been done because the attention to detail was done up front. There were no tricks. There were no things being slid in as we had under prior city managers, and I appreciate that. The transparency was well appreciated. I would like to know when we're going to actually get a copy of the audit from last year. I know we've been talking about it. We haven't actually seen it. So just put that in the in the thing. I would like to follow up, and definitely on the next agenda, even though it sounds like we have a lot of stuff. I am with Patrice Shornack. I want on the agenda an update from the road committee, how we're gonna spend the money, where we can spend the money. I'm going to do exactly what she said, and I challenge all of council to do that. I'm gonna highlight my top 5 choices for roads, so that the road committee can then narrow it down and give us a report. A couple of things that were raised over the last month or two that I have been I've dealt with them directly with various people, but I wanted to raise them. A couple issues that were raised to me, and I want to throw them out for consideration in the future, especially now that we have a capital outlay fund. A resident proposed there's a piece of property that the city owns off of Hayes Road, and he wanted to know if there would be any interest or desire by the city in implementing I think it's a frisbee disc golf park. And so I would definitely like to have a conversation about that. It's a treed area. I don't know much about frisbee disc golf. This person was very passionate. I will share the information, but now that we have money allocated, I would like to see all of our parks and all of our properties used by as many people as possible. Also, I received communication this week from the the Mulvey Farms Homeowners Association. And apparently, also unbeknownst to me, the City of Fraser owns the gazebo that is on Farmview Court, and it is in disrepair. And so I know the list is long of things that need attention, but if that could get added to the list, if that is a city-owned, if in fact that is city-owned, we should make sure it's not in disrepair.
Ms. Bransky, we'll check that both for who owns it and what conditions.
Yeah,
First
perfect.
I've heard of it, but we'll check on it.
Yeah, and this just came in like yesterday or the day before, and I apologize. Normally I would have just emailed it to you, but I wanted the resident to know that I did not forget about it. And just he also is very concerned about his streets in his association, and obviously I did tell him about the road commission or the road committee subcommittee. And then the last thing, it was raised to me about the bedroom windows at the senior center. And I don't believe those were part of the rehabilitation project that we were doing with the door walls and the balconies. I do know, and I apologize to the residents because I know this from firsthand when my father lived there. They ice over, they're horrible. And I would like to add that to the list of things to be considered in the next budget cycle. It's too bad I didn't think about it sooner, but someone raised it to me and I promised them I would bring it up, put it in public so it's very clear that we will get to it. And that's my list of things that over the last month people have contacted me about. Otherwise, thank you to everyone for all of the assistance, and have a wonderful May that hopefully will be nice weather.
Great, thank you. Just to piggyback on Mr. Thompson on Ms. Baranski's comment about the senior center, it was brought up too before, the windows. If you're going to look at windows, the windows that face 15 Mile Road need to be a better sound quality or vibrate so back because of the truck. So if you're going to invest in windows, the windows facing 15 Mile Road should be maybe different ones compared to the other ones because of the environment.
Thank
That's all. Mayor Pro Tem Winowicki, you're next.
Yes. Again, echoing a lot of sentiments that have already been passed on. Gentlemen that worked on the budget, Vince, John, Mark, thank you so much. Again, we did not have a lot of surprises that were just thrown in, things sneaked in. Very good job. We appreciate that. Amy Sell, again, to echoing what Suzanne Kauka said. This by far was probably one of the most seamless and most painless processes that you've put together. It's almost like we knew every candidate before we even had the city council meeting. You know, we had various forms. We had their resume, we had the surveys, we had the phone surveys, we had the videos, we had a lot of things to consider before we even contacted them to go through those interviews. So again, thank you very much. Council, I commend all of council that put their time and effort into adopting this budget. I think it's a good budget. I think the mill assessment on PA 33, I think is fair. I think that shows our residents that you know, we're looking out for their interests as well as the interests of the city. And I thank everyone for their efforts here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Patrice Shornack.
Okay, I have a couple questions. And a couple comments. One, I want to say to the Parks and Rec people and Vince, I enjoyed the farmer market. It was very cold, but it was still a nice time. My daughters enjoyed it, and Vince was getting out there and helping out and moving cones around, and it was a good opportunity to speak with him, so I enjoyed that. And that's, in my opinion, going above and beyond. Can you two silence your mics for the feedback, please? Thank you. Okay, cool. You're good, Kathy. And then, Mr. Walters, I'd like to thank you for your assistance over this last little over a year, helping the city of Fraser out. I know you have another full-time job, so I appreciate all your effort in keeping us moving forward while we were looking for Mr. England, and helping him get this budget squared away for us so it wasn't so overwhelming, especially because he came here right when we were in the budget process. So I appreciate that, because I'm sure he'll take care of it whole on next year without issue. Oh, and I wanted to address a rumor that apparently is going around on Facebook that was brought to my attention, because y'all know pretty much that I'm not much of a Facebooker, but whoever started this, and I'm going to say ridiculous rumor that we're going to be going outside for our police force, that we're looking to abolish our police force. I think this is just somebody with obviously way too much free time to be sitting on Facebook starting stuff, guys. Like, there's nothing going on. I can probably speak for this whole council, I think pretty well, that that's not even a consideration. None of us for even 1 second have been considering that. So can we just find positive things to talk about with our city on Facebook? I really think, especially how COVID crazy everybody has been and everybody who stayed locked down for the last year and a half. Let's just talk about the good things going on. Let's talk about the positive things, because God knows our newscasters don't. It's all the drama, it's all the bad. Why can't we as a community lead the force of talking about positive things? I'm just saying, and I'm not even Miss Positivity, honest to God. I'm pretty much a realist, but I'm just saying, I'm so sick and tired of hearing rumors and innuendo and things that aren't even remotely true, because people are bored and have nothing else to do. Find a hobby, find a better hobby, find a hobby that helps your community, find a hobby that helps your family, find a hobby that helps you keep your sanity. Let's stop with the drama. I'm saying that across this world, honestly, but more so since I can say to our little community, you know, let's get back to being a small town community that cares about their people. And instead of having to wait for a crisis and someone's house burning down, or God forbid, like that time the apartment buildings went up, you know, and everybody reached out and there was great outreach. Can we just find positive outreach now? We're coming into the beautiful time of the year. Find a neighbor who's a little elderly and having some difficulty doing their gardening. I mean, let's put some good stuff out in the world. So, oh, and happy belated Mother's Day to all the awesome moms out there and the mom dads. And that's it.
Councilwoman Suzanne Kolka. She's frozen. Well, she's still frozen, smiling at me.
Is this where we break into let it go?
Yeah, I'll come back to Susan. Councilwoman Blanky.
Oh, she's moving.
There you
now.
are. You're back
I am.
now.
Oh, did you call me? Oh, did you call on me? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
you just kept staring at me with a smile like, okay, what's wrong? Go ahead.
That's so funny.
Go ahead, Susan. You have the floor.
Okay. All right. So I just really want to echo what Council Member Patrice Shornack just said. I mean, really, we should be building relationships. That's what we should be doing. This city's been through hell and back. This world has been through hell and back. And we need to be building relationships. It does not add years to your life to walk around upset and mad or not positive. There's always a glimmer of positivity in everything. And I think we're well on our way as it relates to our city. We've done some very hard things over the last year and a half, but everyone up here, I think will agree with me that we are in a much better place today. And unfortunately, we did it all during COVID. We will get the Parks and Rec back up and it will be running better and stronger than ever. It will, I promise you. Just got to be patient. The other thing I wanted to tell you is in connection with the building relationships, the Fraser Meadows North subdivision is having a subsale June 17th through 19th. On June 19th, we are going to have one of our residents who is also in a band that is going to be playing music all afternoon on the 19th of June. And his house is at the corner of Windmere and French Creek in the afternoon starting at 1 o'clock. And we're also gonna have a taco truck out there. So please come out. Please come out and support Fraser Meadows North that weekend. We're gonna have all kinds of things for sale. And hopefully we'll have a lot of houses participating. My guess is probably hopefully 30 houses at least. So please come on out. The other thing I wanted to give a huge congratulations to the Fraser Farmers Market that went on last weekend, and it was a success, even in the cold. I've heard nothing but great things about it, and I'm very excited about all the other farmers markets that will be coming up. Thank you to all of the Parks and Rec who have really devoted their time in taking this over and put in the time and have made it successful. I know that you've all worked very hard, and it shows. So thank you for that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Well, Don, you're next in line, but I'll go ahead and pass you. I know you don't want nothing to say. Councilwoman Blanky, you are next.
Thank you. I do not have anything. Although I agree with Councilwoman Shornack and Kalka, motivationally speaking, which is what I think they're trying to bring. I know what they're trying to bring out. We're very blessed, we really don't have anything to complain about. You look at our police department, which we're not going to get rid of. We look at the DPW, recreation is trying to regroup, and they will. The whole town is wonderful. When you look at the world and you look at the news, we don't have any complaints. I would like to tell Mark and the DPW employees that I was at Fort Fraser the other day, and it was beautiful. It was so clean and together, and I hadn't seen it look so nice in a long time. So I thank you for that. I'm just appreciative to be here. I don't think, I came from Detroit a long time ago, and I recall us turning the corner at Sewell and 14, my husband and I, so grateful that we were like in paradise, That's how I still feel today. So I think this is a good council. I think we're we're succeeding. We're succeeding in looking out for your interest and that of the cities. So at the end of the day, we should all really just be grateful and appreciative. And thank you so much. I would like to mention that Mrs. Berube, Nancy Berube, who began the farmers market, which we're appreciative for, she became a grandma today. For many times, I don't know, she has many grandchildren, but hot off the press, I saw a picture of this beautiful little baby boy who was so healthy, and another Berube enters the world. So congratulations, Nancy, to you, to your son, and all your family. God love all of you. Thank you. I'll see you next month. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kathy. Councilman Michael Lesich.
Thank you. I didn't write a motivational speech, but I would like to say, glad this budget is behind us. Let's execute it to the best of our administration's fiscal ability. I appreciate Mr. Thompson, Mr. Nealand, and Mr. Walters in putting this together along with the rest of the team. And look forward. I really, really look forward to the water and sewer conversation next month. It's just a thing of mine. Happy belated Mother's Day to my wife, my mother. My wife is a grandmother. She's got all the mothering going on and she does a great job. And looking forward to park pavilion rentals. I think that'll really open up our city and get people outdoors and enjoying it. That's it. I would like to see coming up what a report on the parks update in June, what the target is, how we're doing, but I'm sure we'll keep on top of that. Other than that, I would say good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. I don't have very much. I know everybody's been thanked over and over, but some people who are never thanked for the job they do, and that's this council. And I just wanted to reach out and thank council. It does take a lot of work to sit up here and do this job and go over all the paperwork over and over and over and over again. And it's just these people are, besides being colleagues, they're just all friends, and it just makes it a lot easier. This is probably one of the better councils I've ever sat on, and we are making an impact, and it's really nice to see, and it makes the job fun. So I look forward to executing this budget. I look forward to getting these roads up and running and making an impact, and we will be successful, as I said. Let's see, we have a Memorial Day coming up. We'll be sending out some information. I know we're going to be doing some wreath presentations with the VFW here at City Hall, so I'll send that information out once it's settled with the VFW. Last year it was kind of very abbreviated. Nobody was around. We did a silent flags of silent wreath presenting because of COVID. So this year, VFW is hoping that at least we can get a lot of the council people and some residents here this year. So that's about all I have at this time. Again, thank you all for supporting this city. It means a lot. So at this time, I will open it up for citizen participation. If there's anyone in the audience at this time who would like to be recognized or have any comments, please let yourself be known and we will call you.
Hello.
Hello, who's this?
This is Thomas Leduc.
Hey, Mr. Luke, please identify your address, please, and go ahead.
16436 Clarkson Drive. Mr. Mayor, Council, good evening. First off, let me say that I'm pretty geeked about the taco truck. I like Mexican food. So I'm definitely going to head over there for the garage sale, which I generally stay away from like the plague, but there's a taco truck, I'll be there. I wish I could do a kumbaya moment here. I do appreciate the work that all of you do. I really do. I talk to most everybody about once a month. I understand for what you're doing and for what you're getting paid, I think you're crazy to do it. And I want to let everybody know that even though I think you're a little bit crazy to do it, that I have found that if any citizen reaches out to you, that you're going to answer. Now, they may not like the answer you give. I have many times not like the answer that I've been given. But I think everybody can at least say that at least I'm willing to listen and what have you. And I believe the vast majority of people are like that, except for the people with the special interest, and they have to have it their way or they're going to make trouble. I read that rumor today about that people on council wanted to get rid of the cops. And I got to tell you, I was floored because I've talked to each and every one of you. And I was like, who would want to get rid of the cops? Because a lot of us in this town have fought. You got rid of 8 cops, you got rid of the dispatch. And we're talking about people 6 years ago, when former Director Rohib was very kind, gave me a 3-hour overview of what public safety is, because I had no clue that they do both policing, fire, and medical, and what that means to this city and how it saves money. And these people go out and see the broken parts of humanity each and every day on our behalf. They do this work. So I know that from my end, I don't believe that anybody up on this council would absolutely believe that, because I can guarantee you this: if you do and you can be recalled, I'll work on it to get you recalled. And there's an election this year, and we already have one candidate declared, and some of your former colleagues, Doug Haggerty. And I will make sure that whoever would want to run and try to disband this police department, I will do everything I can to stop that. So I know I'm a little jazzed, and I know that Councilman Kelkin Shornack, kind of gave me the speech before, just listening to you right now, saying, okay, just, be calm. So I'm trying to be calm. But this is important. This is vitally important to this city. And I don't believe any of you would actually want to disband the Fraser Public Safety Department. I don't believe any one of you would do it. And that's why I highly suggest to go back to my original point. You have a question, reach out to these people. You might not like the answer, but at least you're getting it directly from them, as opposed to hearing it through third, fourth, fifth sources. And with that, I thank you for your time. We'll see you kids next month.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments, Tom.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Have a good night. Anybody else at this time? Sergeant, I don't see anybody else on my screen.
I'd like to say something.
Okay, name and address, please, for the record.
Clifton Chambers, 34246 Pioneer Road. I've been living here right now for the past 20 years, and I never get a chance to attend the council meeting. So today is my first day, and I enjoyed it. Very informative. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cliff.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Come
you.
back. Come back next month.
I live
yeah.
around the
Oh, yeah.
corner from you.
Yeah,
Call me. I'll bring you all up to speed. I live right around the corner from you.
Right. I see you down here on the corner.
You live behind me. You live behind me. So
Oh, okay.
Awesome. You just made our day.
yeah.
Yay.
Thank you,
All
Cliff.
right.
Have a good day. Evening.
Stop by
Stay
and say
safe.
hi. I'm serious, please.
Yeah, sure will. Sure will.
Okay. Good night.
Night.
Anybody else at this time? Okay, I still see nobody. Okay. Okay, at this time, I make a motion that we go into closed door session to consult with city legal counsel regarding trial or settlement strategy in connection with Macomb County case number 20-3248-CD.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Mr. Thompson, could you please call a vote?
Member Baranski,
Yes.
Blanky,
Yes.
Mayor Carnegie,
Yes.
Member Kalka,
Yes.
Member Lesich,
Yes.
Member Shornack,
Yes.
Member Winawiki.
Yes.
Okay, we'll go into closed session at 9:43 p.m. Be right back. Good evening, everybody. I would like to call back the meeting to order at 9:53 PM. Councilwoman Suzanne Kolka.
Thank you. At this time, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to authorize our litigation defense counsel to proceed as proposed in the closed door session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions on that motion? I see none. Mr. Thompson, can you please call a vote?
Member Baranski,
Yes.
Member Blanky,
Yes.
Mayor Carnegie,
Yes.
Member Kauka,
Yes.
Member Lesich,
Yes.
Member Shornack,
Yes.
Member Winawiki.
Yes.
Your motion carries. Mr. Denault, do you need me to sign it tomorrow or when do you?
No, there's no extreme urgency,
Okay.
but we will make sure. And Mr. Thompson.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Kolka?
Thank you. At this time, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to go into closed door session for consideration of a written opinion from our city attorney.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and multiple seconds. Mr. Thompson, can you please call a vote?
Member Baranski,
Amy, you're muted.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Member Blanky,
Yes.
Mayor Carnegie,
Yes.
I didn't hear it if you said member Kelka.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Okay.
Member Lesich,
Yes.
Member Shornack.
Yep.
Member Winawiki.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. We'll go into closed session at 9:55 PM. I will call the meeting back to order at 10:16 PM.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay, I
Any
want to call
opposed?
nay.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.
Nice meeting, guys.